Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for not only a preview stream ahead of Chelsea versus Southampton, but also a bit of a recap of Dortmund 1, Chelsea 0, because I haven't had time to stream since coming home yesterday. As you can hear, my voice is screwed. I have a cough. I have a runny nose. So please do excuse if I'm sneezing all over the shop or if I have to bloody, turn my camera and mic off to blow me nose. But there's also a weird amount of news today, considering it's like a random Friday in the middle of February. Like, we just finished the transfer window. Why the flip is there so much news? But hey, plenty of stuff to get through, plenty of stuff to talk about. And it's going to be very interesting for damn sure. Darmesh, first of all, thank you for being back on. Appreciate it very, very much. Before we talk about Dortmund, you know what? Actually, let's start with Dortmund without going into too much detail, but let's start with Dortmund regardless. Annoying that we didn't win. Annoying that we not only didn't win, but also lost, because, a draw we probably would have taken. But it's just a frustrating game where, for so many weeks now, our issue was kind of that we didn't really create much. Against West Ham, we had a few. But before that, it was like we didn't really create that much. Like an acceptable number maybe as of the last few weeks. But before that, it was like our main issue was we weren't creating. Now, against West Ham and especially against Dortmund, we started to create and we just cannot score to save our lives. My God, like it's so frustrating. It's always one issue for us, isn't it? Like it feels like for the last, don't even know how many, can't even talk in years, more like 4 managers. One game, we can't create, and then we complain about lack of creativity. And then the next game, we create loads, but don't finish, and then we complain about the lack of finishes. Like it literally swings around. And even as a fan base, we can't even ever decide what the main issue is. Because right now, people are saying, oh, if only Aubameyang wasn't scrapped, then we would have scored all these goals. While a week ago, they were all saying, if only we had some more creative players, then we would create way more chances. It's mad. But what did you make of the game? Because I did see a few people, obviously I didn't follow everything because it was at the ground and stuff, but I did see a few people that seemed to be a lot more negative about the game than at least I perceived it as from the stands. I saw people say, we were struggling. Yes, there was maybe a 10-minute period in the first half where they were a bit on top, but in general, I just felt we understood that the way to hurt Dortmund is to counter-attack them with the pace that we've got. That means we sat a bit deeper, invited some pressure, and then hit them on the break. And then in the second half, when we hadn't gotten our goal from that way, we were a bit more aggressive, dominated possession more because we had only 42% in the first half. By the end, we had more possession in Dortmund. And then we dominated the game and conceded a stupid goal, like stupid defensively, but also stupidly unlucky in terms of the guy just punts it over his own head and it falls directly into Adeyemi's path. Like, it's just unlucky, not like, bad and everything. So again, obviously your perspective now, but I was surprised when I saw people having a bit of a go at this. And even worse, when I saw people having a go at Graham Potter for it. And because they were like, Joao Felix just carried Potter. But when we play bad, including Joao Felix on the pitch, then it's Potter's fault. When we play well, it's just the players carrying. This, like, you cannot define an agenda better than those two statements. Like, how much more obvious do you want to make it that you have an agenda, man? Do you know what I mean? But go on, Damesh, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers, Laurenz, for having me on again. Like and sub to his channel as well. Smashing it with the content and stuff, bro. But yeah, man, that Dortmund game, man, just so frustrating as well. It's just like I woke up the next morning and I still don't know how we lost that game. With the amount of chances we created, the good football we were playing for at least 75, 80 minutes. I said backstage as well before we started, like the only sort of criticism I had of us was sort of in transition when Dortmund were kind of on the front foot, counter-attacking us. They looked really dangerous. And like I kind of expected them to score with how the game went, but then again, I expected us to score at least, like, no joke, about 5 or 6, given the chances that we had. Felix obviously had 2 or 3 great chances as well, that off the line shot by Koulibaly as well, if that gone in. So I think it was just a matter of like bad luck for us on the day in a way. And like I could definitely see improvement in performances going back to sort of the West Ham game as well, for sort of like the first 35 minutes where we played really good football. But against Dortmund, I thought we were good most of the game. And it was expected in such a hostile environment. Obviously, you were there yourself, weren't you, Laurenz? Like, it was like such a hostile environment to go to. And like, considering we almost played them off the park, it's just unfortunate in a way we just didn't get those couple of goals. And luckily for us, like, away goals don't really matter. So I believe even if we win, say, 2-1 in the sort of next leg, then I believe we go through. I think that's right. I'm not 100%
I think
sure.
No, then we just go to extra time in it, because then.
Oh, was it? Because I thought it was just whatever the result. of the day, isn't it? And then if it's more home goals or something like that, it's a bit confusing. But
No, it's just no away goals rule anymore. So it's like,
oh, okay, yeah.
so it's like, if we win 2-1 in the next game, then it's just 2-2 overall, and we go to
Oh, okay, yeah. But like, luckily for us, like away goals don't really matter. It's just how much we can actually score. And I believe with the chances we create and judging how open Dortmund were, like if we create the same like chances, then surely we got to bury at least 3 or 4 against these lot, man. But yeah, it's just frustrating, and like unluckily for Potter as well, it's just not gone his way in terms of the results. And like people criticize him, that's fair enough and stuff, but actively sort of calling him out on that performance, in my opinion, is wrong, because what do you expect him to do? Do you expect him to come in on the pitch and actually bang the goals himself? Like that's down to sort of the players at the end of the day. And yeah, there were certain players who I thought were really good, certain players who weren't at their best, to be honest. But yeah, I'm sure like we'll probably expand on that a little bit more later on. But those are my overall sort of thoughts on the game, man. It's just frustrating, but I can sense like a good aura in terms of like a performance where we score at least sort of like 4 or 5 eventually when we create these amount of chances that we have. It's gonna happen one day, man. I'm sure of it. Hopefully,
yeah, mate. I couldn't agree more with pretty much most of what you just said there. Pice, thank you for being back on as well. Like I say, before we get into all the news that we have to discuss, I'll start with you as well in terms of Dortmund. Similar thoughts to myself and Darmesh, or do you agree with some of the people online that have tried to make this a worse performance than it was? Because I just really don't think it was bad. Like people think, I don't know what people's expectations are. We're in the knockout stages of the UEFA Champions League. We're playing a Borussia Dortmund. Yes, I know they're not the very best team in the world, but they have a stadium of 80,000 people, crowd right behind the team. No one goes to Dortmund and just smacks them. That's not a thing. So I don't like. I just find it weird. Like, remember, I know it's a long time ago. Remember Real Madrid as reigning gods. Do you know what I mean? With Ronaldo, Bale, all sorts of players. They got smacked by Dortmund. Do you know what I mean? Like, Dortmund do the smacking at Signal Iduna Park. People don't smack Dortmund. So I just find it weird how people try to drag this down. Again, obviously, we all frustrated that we didn't win and that we didn't take our chances, and we'll get to that. But I think as a performance, there's no need to talk it down, in my opinion. What would you say, Pice?
Yeah, absolutely agree. I thought we played really well, to be honest. I was seemingly probably the most positive account after that game on Twitter, at least between, the rest of us, at least on my timeline, which is quite rare because I'm usually the one that's the most frustrated. But I think when I'm that positive, we must have played well. I mean, we had so many chances, and it was not even just like the actual chances we had. There was like loads of situations where like it could have led to a bigger chance if we just improved a little bit more. I mean, that one they cleared off the line was just, ridiculous, to be honest. The fact that Chan was there, right place, right time. About the 82nd minute, I think we had a chance, and I was like, yeah, that's it. We just ain't getting it today. We'll have to go for the second leg. Like, Dortmund have just got that sort of, I don't know. It was just their night type of thing. That's how I kind of left feeling the game. I think any other game, Felix especially scores that first one. I know people were going crazy about the second when he hit the bar, but the first one, he's literally running onto it and he just has to slot it home and he just hits it a bit too high. So I think other days, we take advantage, I think, of those attacking situations. And people say, oh, well, I came out after the game, I said, I'm really, really confident for the second leg, especially being at home and we're only 1 down and, it sucks to lose. But there's so many positives there and people are like, yeah, but we just... this will just happen in the second leg. And I don't know whether I'm just being biased. I just don't believe this will happen at the second leg. I think we'll take our chances. We're at home. The fans will be going crazy. There'll be a really good atmosphere, and I think we'll get the job done.
European nights, we tend to do sort of well, like sort of previous track record over the past 2 or 3 years, where sort of big teams have sort of like come to the bridge and we've turned up massively. Like obviously Juventus is one of them. AC Milan from the top of my head, and obviously that sort of run.
Dortmund are just not good defensively, bro.
Exactly, they're not.
We murdered them, even though we didn't score. I mean, we had like 21 shots. I mean,
especially fair, like at some point in the first half, I remember the screen, I guess, in the stadium showing that they had like at that point like 11 attempts on 9, and we had 2. I'm not quite sure how they came to that conclusion. I feel like because
I thought we defended quite well, though. To be fair.
No, absolutely. Well. Again, there was attempts. They basically had none on target, right? Do you know what I mean? The only reason why I'm maybe not quite as confident as Pisces for the second leg is because our pitch is way smaller. Therefore, I don't expect us to be able to create quite as much, especially because they are now in the lead. So they will not They will not need to be as expansive. They will be able to just make sure, at least until we get one, they don't need to do much, right? So that will certainly make things more difficult. I think it is a very different type of game then. But I still firmly believe that we can do it. I'm not going to sit here and say we will absolutely smash them out the park and guaranteed go through to the quarterfinal, but there's definitely a good chance, and people are kind of acting as if it was already over. Let's talk about the performance a little bit of not the player ratings, but in terms of individuals, because to me it's weird because there was a few players that really didn't have good games. For example, Kai Havertz. Then again, Kai Havertz created the second Joao Felix chance. I know Pice says maybe a bit more difficult than people make it out to be. I'm not saying it's the easiest chance in the world, but if you're Joao Felix, who at 19 cost 140 million quid, well, then you should still score it. I don't care if it's not the easiest. You should still score it, right? That's what we get these expensive players in for, not just to score tap-ins. We get them in to also score goals that are not the super easiest in there, ever. Do you know what I mean? Hakim Ziyech created the first Joao Felix goal, but otherwise wasn't particularly good in my opinion, other than second half when he decided, all of a sudden, I can dribble now, even though he dribbled past three players and then passed it straight to the opposition every time. Even Loftus-Cheek, I saw some people have a straight go at again. I thought it was pretty decent. He also created Koulibaly's chance. Again, if that goes in, everyone's like, oh, look at this. But because he didn't, it's weird. And that is another one of those things that just explains where we are at the moment, that our biggest chance later in the game, why did it fall to Koulibaly? Like, it was an open play. Ruben pulls off a cutback where, like, just play it into the danger area, which he did well. And, like, why was Koulibaly the guy there? And, like, I understand why Koulibaly shot, but I also am like, you had Ziyech right next to you on his strong left foot. You could have just laid it off, and Ziyech could have smacked it from inside the box. There was no Dortmund player anywhere near him. But, again, I do understand. The one player that I was pretty disappointed by against Dortmund, I would probably say is Mudryk, if I'm honest. There was the one over-the-top ball, which he just basically didn't touch at all, let alone had a bad touch. He just didn't. It looked like he didn't even get the ball. And again, I know that wasn't easy, but just what I said about that second chance of Felix, we're not buying expensive players to only be able to do easy things. We're buying expensive players to be able to do difficult things. Because if we only needed them to do easy things, well, then we could just play the under-17s. Do you know what I mean? Don't need £100 million players to do easy things. But Pice, what's your perspective in terms of players playing well, players playing badly? Is there anyone that stood out in both directions to you, whether good or bad?
I mean, I know you mentioned the chance fell to him, but I was actually pleasantly surprised by Koulibaly's performance, to be fair. I thought he played quite well at the back. I was worried about him coming into the game, honestly. I think I even said I played Chalobah, but I was actually quite surprised. But also, like, I was thinking about it in terms of Koulibaly. Like, I said in the chat after, I said, like, competition just does breed success in a lot of circumstances. I think now he's lost his place to Badiashile. He's going to have to play better. So playing bad against Dortmund wasn't really an option for him. So, I thought he played quite well. Chilwell, I mean, a lot of people were slandering him, but
what?
I tweeted out a because
amazing considering what I said, not being fully fit.
He got
amazing.
I think people were saying when obviously slide tackled and got beat by that guy, and he was not great, but I thought he was really, really good. I mean, I tweeted out a stat after the game, absolutely astonishing. Ben Chilwell has created more chances, 3 chances in 71 minutes than Cucurella has in his last 8 games. I find that absolutely absurd. Like, how, my God, that's just an awful stat if you're Cucurella. Other players, I do agree, Mudryk was not great. I think Mudryk just needs to keep it simple, though. Like, he was doing too many flicks and, like, that type of thing. Like, he'd give the ball away. He was doing, like, little flicks and shit, and I'm just like,
do you mind the flicks, though? I feel like I don't mind the flicks because I I think the flicks, once they know each other a bit better, they will come off. And I don't want them to get into a position where they're a bit too scared to play those kind of flicks, because those are the kind of flicks that get you moving up the pitch quick and get you attacking.
Yeah, but he was doing them. He was doing them so much that it was just kind of like, like it was an area in midfield where he just did like a flick into midfield, and I was like, he could just literally just take a touch and play a simple pass.
I'd rather that than how many players do we sit there and say, you like, even Sterling, how, like, when we're like, why don't you dribble anymore? And this isn't Mudryk dribbling, but just using it as an example of losing confidence and then not trying things anymore. I'd rather you keep trying, even if it doesn't work, and not losing confidence, because you losing confidence is worse than you trying things that don't work, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I do see that angle to it as well. But yeah, there was one where I think he took a really bad touch. I think it was a ball over the top, and I was like, oh, he's got to get onto that. And yeah, the counter attack where Schlotterbeck tackled him, I thought I didn't really know what to think of that, because I thought he was going to get through, but when he was 1v1, I don't know, I just didn't really
His
have
touch
confidence
wasn't that
that he
good.
was
His last
gonna,
touch wasn't
yeah,
that
like
good, yeah.
That was the
gonna
one
get
really
through.
early on, right, when Felix played him through.
Like
Yeah,
second
really,
minute or first
really
minute,
early
yeah.
on.
I
And I
mean,
think
the pass should have had a bit more power on him, but he definitely should still do better. He just didn't control it well, and it took him too
no,
long
I just think that's
to
like
get back into his stride.
that for me is like Mudryk's bread and butter. You know,
Yeah,
you're one-on-one with
I
a
agree.
defender. You know, you either get him sent off, like you're just too quick, and he is skillful as well. So I hope we see more from him. You know, tomorrow. But he's definitely had a difficult start. Definitely.
Absolutely, but I mean, I'm not going to bring it up now because I didn't have it ready now. Didn't think of it, but the Instagram story, I'm sure a lot of you guys saw it. Of his Insta story where it was like, it's not always easy, but we're Ukrainians, we fight, we're warriors, and we'll never give up, and at some point we'll turn out as winners. I like the mentality. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't. Again, this is kind of what I was talking about in terms of don't lose your confidence, don't stop trying things, keep going. You clearly have talent, even though you need to fix your first touch. But after that, like, it will come eventually, in my opinion. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather that than, having that little bit rebellious reaction to struggling a little bit, rather than, sulking and, losing the confidence, like I say. But yeah, I mean, before I take it back to Damesh, what did you make of Kai? Because Kai did a lot of stupid things. The main one that sticks in my mind is when he, for some reason, tried to cut across between two players. He just ran straight into the opponent. I'm like, what are you doing? Why? I don't understand this at all. But then I also, like, again, from the stand, I thought he did some good things as well. What I found very interesting compared to the last few games, it wasn't as clearly Havertz the striker, Felix is the 10. It was actually quite a lot that Felix was the guy furthest up top, and then Kai drifting to the right and dropping deep. Also because off the ball, we basically played a back five, with Ziyech basically playing a right wing back and Reece a right centre back. Not sure if you guys noticed this, but I was so high up in the stand, it was so obvious, glaringly obvious, that it was off the ball, clear back five. Which is why, because Ziyech was a bit deeper, someone had to drift over to the right, which was pretty much always Kai Havertz and Joao Felix that was there in the middle. But he obviously also created that chance. Like, what did you make of it? Obviously, like, I understand. And I think one of two things happens. Either he should get a penalty, or Zula should get a red card for pulling his shirt. And that changes the whole complexion of the game as well, which on that occasion, I thought he did okay, because initially outmuscled Sula, which I found quite impressive. So what did you make of him, Pice? Because I know that there's always some people that are like, oh, he's awful. Some people are a bit too nice about it as well.
I mean, it's a difficult one. He did create a couple of chances, but I think overall it was pretty frustrating. The one, like, I know you're talking about like the cutting in one, but the one that actually annoyed me the most, he was in on goal and he took this, like, he decided to flick it with his heel, bro, and like the goalkeeper just come out, and I don't know, I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, it's just
the ball
not
just fell a bit too far behind him, right? That's why he tried to flick it forward, and then he hit it way too far in front of him.
Bro, it was like a Lukaku type flick. Like, it was ridiculous. I don't know what he was doing. I was like, oh my fucking days, because I thought he was just going to run through on goal. But I mean, yeah, frustrating. I do kind of get annoyed as well with like these pundits that go, oh, Chelsea absolutely need a number 9, because this has been going on for seasons and seasons. And we've bought number 9s, and we still have, like, when we buy number 9, the creativity is the issue, or we have to focus too much on playing to them and their strength. So it's like the commentators were pissing me off as well of how they were treating Havertz, but at the same time he was frustrating. I think it was just probably a bit above average. I do agree. I think he wasn't as much the number 9 as well. I was noticing him out on the right hand side quite a bit. It was interesting. But yeah, I mean, the one thing I know, I mean, I don't even know if you'll disagree on this now anymore, but I do think we should have kept Aubameyang in the squad. I'm sorry. I think even just coming off the bench, like, late on, like that sort of nous in the box, like, how many fucking chances do we have? And I 100% agree, like, we may not have created those same chances, or it may not have been as fluid with Aubameyang. Yeah, but he's still the only actual proper striker in our squad. I mean, Fofana, yeah, but he's young and he's also plays out wide. So it's like,
I know. I think Kai Havertz at this point, he's played striker so much. Yes, he might not be the best striker, but he's enough of a striker to consider him as such, in my opinion.
For me
Again,
personally,
he might not be that good at it, but he's still played it enough to be
I
considered
mean-
as it. Equally as much as Fofana, do you know what I mean, in my head. And Nikki, I'm sorry, I will try to speak a little bit slower. There's just so much to get through today that subconsciously I'm like, okay, quick. So we're not sat here for flipping 3.5 hours. And football, no, I have not. But Dharmesh, I'll take it to you. Again, similar question. People that stood out in both ways, positively and negatively, who would you pick out in that sense?
Yeah, I think Pi's pretty much summed it all up for me, to be honest. I thought Koulibaly stood out for me, in my opinion. I thought coming into the team after not being in the team for a while and getting a lot of criticism, I thought he did quite well. I actually thought he was better than Silva on the night. That's my personal opinion, but I thought he was better than Silva on the night. Just his sort of experience, which we need, and people sort of forget the importance of experience at going to these kind of hostile places away. And Koulibaly's used to that at his Napoli days. So, he performed really well. Like, I have every confidence that you'll start the second leg, and hopefully you can replicate that performance and sort of try and stop Haller. I thought Haller did pretty decent, to be fair. Considering the circumstances he's had in the past and stuff, but Koulibaly stood out for me. I thought Reece James was also really good as well. So I believe this is his third game back after injury or fourth game back after injury, I believe. Yeah. And then I thought he was his usual explosive self, where he did this one run, I think in the second half, where he's like, F it, like I'll just dribble through pretty much the whole team.
It felt like, okay, I've had enough. I'm just gonna do it myself now.
Exactly, yeah, and like we've missed that kind of like Reece James that we haven't when he's been back. Obviously, there's context with it, him being out after the injuries, but I thought he was really good defensively. I thought he did decent as well. I thought for Joao Felix as well. Joao Felix, even though should have buried those 2 or 3 chances he had, but I thought overall he was really good. Every sort of attack we do, everything just comes through him, and like I'm just so glad we've got him in our team at the moment, and I really hope that we do get him in the summer, because he's definitely a player that we've been missing for ages. So yeah, I thought he did well. Who else? I think Mudryk was a bit disappointing. Again, to be honest, but we do have to remember he hasn't played a lot of football given the circumstances that happened in Ukraine last year as well. So I think he'll just need time to settle in, to be honest, as well. And Ben Chilwell as well. Ben Chilwell did really well, I thought, as well. First game back, was energetic, was getting crosses in, defensively quite good as well. I just hope that sort of kick or knock that he got, hopefully it's not too serious, and that he can start tomorrow. And I think those are the main ones, to be honest. Kepa didn't really have to do anything, to be honest. I think he made one good save. Distribution was good as well, I thought. But Havertz again was just I thought he was okay. I mean, he's had worse performances, but even still, I thought just
great, was it?
I'm just sick of watching Havertz play, to be honest, man.
Yeah, I hear that. And someone asked, was any of you at the game? Yes, I was. As you can see, follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you want to see pictures. But yeah, I mean, one thing I will say, Dortmund are the Liverpool of Germany. Yes, they're good because obviously they have 80,000 and it's German ultra culture. But Frankfurt fans are like, I can't even put it into words how much louder. Like 20 times louder. Like Frankfurt was not even comparable to Dortmund. Still sick, and the tifo was class and everything. But I was a bit disappointed by the tifo because they didn't sing during it at all, and they didn't have any, flares out either. I was expecting a bit more, but it still looked sick. It was kind of a bit funny because they kind of pulled it out a bit early, and then they kind of pulled the world flag back down, and then pulled it back up, but then it ripped halfway through, so then it was all a bit of a mess. It's quite funny though. But yeah, I'd probably agree with you boys. Koulibaly, the first 10 minutes, I thought there was still a little bit of shakiness once he tried to push up and just wouldn't, missed the ball completely. There was a bit of a gap. And once he headed the ball towards Chilwell with way too much power. And, that's when, they had a pretty decent chance and Chilwell, clean up for it, basically. But after that, the longer the game went on, Koulibaly got better and better and better and was impeccable by the end, genuinely. But yeah, Chilwell, I would genuinely pick out Chilwell as the one to stand out most in comparison to what I expected because of not being fully fit. Was very impressed, very, very impressed. Fair play. And it's like the difference between current Cucurella and even a not fully fit Chilwell was a little bit concerning. I won't even lie. Like, actually a bit concerning how much of a difference it made to the team and to the performance. But yeah, is there anything else we need to discuss? Oh yeah, one thing I need to discuss. This referee. I'm not sure if people watching on TV were as annoyed by it as I was, but this referee was riling me right up. Now, can someone tell me if you guys remember when Reece James got booked super early? Was that even a remotely justified yellow card?
Because from where I was a yellow, to be honest.
I think the most ridiculous decision I've ever seen.
I think given the replay I saw, I thought it all in all it was a yellow, to be honest, because of the sort of impact that he went through.
On his foot or something?
Yeah, you stepped on him, and like you sort of see those being given. So I thought the ref actually wasn't too bad. I think there was free kicks here and there that were kind of frustrating at times, but I don't think he got any sort of major decision wrong from what I remember. But yeah, even that, I think did Koulibaly get booked as well? I can't remember if he got booked as well, but
I can't remember either.
Nah. And then I think that whole bust up at the end as well. Surely there was a red card in there somewhere for a Dortmund player, man. I don't know.
Yeah, and how it ended up being Mason Mount that got booked, I still don't fully understand. Obviously, I didn't see the moment back, but to me, it looked like the ball went out of play. We had to throw in, wanted to get a goal, obviously, because it was late on. Big up yourself, Lewis, by the way. Big up everyone that's joining from Lewis's stream. Big up yourself. But yeah, it looked like one of our assistants or whatever was running after the ball on the sideline, trying to pick it up to get us to have a quick throw in. And all of a sudden, the Dortmund player started chasing Adoni, and I was like, what's happening? And then after everything was cleared up, all of a sudden Mount got booked. I was like, how's that happened?
I think he pushed Bellingham or something, or I can't remember. He squared up to someone, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying necessarily that it was completely unjustified, but I just didn't see it from where I was. I was like, how's Mount got booked now? But yeah, there was a few. There was a foul that he gave against Havertz earlier. I'm like, this is a contact sport. How can this be a free kick? And again, still think either it's a red card for Zule and a free kick, or it's a penalty. It's one of those two. It's for damn sure. I mean, he pulled his shirt. If he doesn't pull his shirt, he doesn't even get close enough to tackle him in the box. So it's one of two ways. Either it's a red for pulling the shirt because last man, or it's a foul in the box. It has to be one of those two. Yeah.
Is that the Havertz one you're on about? Or Yeah, see that one I'm still not sure about. I need to see sort of the replay of that. It's one of those ones where it's you've seen those given, but you've seen those not given at the same time. It's one of those like
I agree on that pen. Yeah. Like it's not stonewall, and you like if the ref gives it, VAR don't overturn it the other way. But if the ref doesn't give it, VAR don't give it. But like the shirt pull before is as clear as day. And if you're the last man and you do a tactical foul, it's a red card. So you have it's two decisions. Either you let it go and then you have to give a foul, or you pull it back for the red card and then the free kick. Hey, Pice, your perspective on the ref, was it maybe more a little bit in the stadium that it was triggering maybe more so than on TV?
Yeah, no, he was a bit frustrating, bit inconsistent. I knew, to be honest, I thought he'd get out of even more yellows, knowing his record. I think leading into the game was crazy, but yeah, it was just one of those where I think he wanted to take control of the game a bit too much. He was very strict. It does happen in Europe though; they are much more stricter than the Premier League. So,
and the Jude Bellingham thing. Actually ridiculous. How did he not get sent off?
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
It's the most blatant yellow card foul that he committed ever. Then he gives an advantage. We get fouled again at the edge of the box. Then he books that guy, but doesn't book Bellingham. I'm like, if you don't understand the rules, Mr. Referee, that just because you give advantage doesn't mean you can't give a yellow card, because it's no fucking advantage to us, you letting us run, if instead of sending the guy off, man. Do you know what I mean? Bellingham being off for the last 20 minutes and Bellingham being suspended for the second leg. You know what a difference that makes? And he's just like, no, I gave advantage. I mean, fuck off. I hate referees so much. And I know people say, oh, you can't blame things on the ref and stuff. I see it as, well, we criticize our players for making mistakes. We expect our players for some reason to be inch perfect every time. Our players actually have to do things. All referees have to do is see things. They have the way easier job than footballers. So I don't, do you know what I mean? I find it a bit ridiculous, but hey, let's not get too hung up on that. Excuse me, please. And I think that's enough about Dortmund. Is there anything else that we need to discuss? I guess in terms of just, we created a lot for once. Pice, let me take this one more time to you. We created quite a bit, but we didn't take the chances this time. I'm not sure if you watched the press conference, but otherwise I'm sure you saw the quote. He was asked about it, and I think by Simon Johnson actually. And he was like, "Oh yeah, you create a lot, but then you didn't score them." And Potter was very and I agreed with him. He was like, well, I don't fully agree because against Dortmund, we created a lot and didn't score. But against the other teams, it was more of a case of, yeah, we created a little bit rather than a lot. So is to you the positive, okay, now we created? Or do you think it was more of a one-off where we created this much, Pies?
No, I don't. Well, I mean, if you look at the previous games, you'd probably say it was a one-off considering we created for pretty much 90 minutes long. But no, I feel like this will be, the norm in a few weeks or at least months. I mean, I don't see how it can't with the players we've got on the pitch. And they're just going to get better and better each game and more understanding. So, I tweeted this the other day. I was like, I'm really looking forward to watching tomorrow. Honestly, I am. I mean, that's not really normal when you win 2 wins in 13 games and you're ninth in the league. But these are the sort of players we have. I think it's a big few weeks for us. Each game is another game to understand each other. And I'm looking forward to watching certain players. I think the ownership have done a really, really good job to bring in these players. And although the results are not there, I think you can see on the pitch at least going forward. And I mean, not even at least going forward. It's actually in defence as well because we've kept like 3 clean sheets in the last 4 games or something. I was reading, so we're only conceded
3 and 5 now.
3 and 5, yeah, something. It's still really good though. And to be honest, you don't really associate Graham Potter teams with the defence. It's more the attacking, free-flowing football. So I think actually, not all signs, but quite a lot of positive signs. I think for the next few weeks.
Absolutely. And one other positive sign is that we already seem to be quicker in the Potter transition than it was at Brighton. Because now we're in the situation where, okay, they create, but can't score to save their lives. Remember Potter's second season at Brighton, and everyone was talking about how Brighton's XG would basically put them in the top 4, but Mopai and all their attackers kept missing their chances, and that's why they were 10th or whatever it was. And we're at that point already, and then not long after they had that period where they just could not score, even though they created loads, they started scoring. And then everyone started to be impressed. And that was always my hope. I always knew that it wasn't going to be an instant thing with Potter. The big question was just how much quicker would his process be with better players? And that was the big question mark. And we don't have that question fully answered yet. But hey, I guess one last thing, Damesh, what did you make of the goal we conceded? Obviously, it was unlucky. We spoke about already, kicked over his head straight into Adeyemi's path. But should we have? I mean, Emre Can said after the game. I'm not sure if you guys heard about this, but Emre Can said after the game that he was confused how we only let kept one man back when they have a player like Adeyemi who's as fast as Adeyemi.
Bellingham, wasn't it?
I read it was Emre Can. It might have been Bellingham anyway, but
maybe they both said
one
it.
of their players said it.
Maybe the whole Dortmund team was just like, why are these idiots leaving one player back?
Exactly.
It's the fastest player in the Bundesliga.
No, exactly that. And also, but I also think Enzo should have done better in that situation. But he seemed to too undecided for too long. Either commit and tackle or be ready for when he, tries to accelerate. Because Enzo just was a bit too flat-footed. I'm like, well, what did you expect Adeyemi to do? Not run past you at some point? And I also think Kepa should have come a little bit earlier. But I think Kepa hesitates because Enzo hesitates because Kepa didn't know what Enzo was going to do. I mean, I was sat there and I was like, I don't know what Enzo's doing. So I'm like, well, if I don't know, I would assume Kepa doesn't know either, right? So I understand it from that perspective. But, much of a complaint with that goal, or is it just one of those that it's annoying, but just happens?
Yeah, I think with regards to the goal, from a Dortmund's perspective, I thought it was a good goal to sort of watch. It was like, oh, okay, wow. Obviously, it was shit because he scored against us. But when Adeyemi scored, I was like, wow, okay, fair play. That's a pretty decent goal. But from our perspective, from a Chelsea fan perspective, it was frustrating because I think I read this thread on Twitter, but you guys have probably seen it. The amount of goals we can see from our own corners. I think there was 4 or 5 examples. I think the first one was the Jadon Sancho goal against us, the Martinelli one. I think there was one Manchester City one, then the one yesterday, and then there was one more. I couldn't remember who was against us. I saw this thread, and it's been a recurring issue with Anthony Barry, the way he sort of sets us up for corners and stuff. So with regards to that, it was frustrating to sort of see that happen again. And I was baffled to see why Enzo was the last player there when he's not the quickest, in my opinion. I thought he did pretty decent to keep up with Adeyemi, given how quick he was. But at the same time, I don't blame him for not making a tackle because that probably would have led to a red card and therefore denying goal scoring opportunity. And obviously, you'll be suspended for the next leg and stuff, which obviously we don't want. But I thought Kepa maybe could have done a little bit better. That's just me being really, really critical, though, in my opinion. Like you said, he hesitated a little bit. It's like if he maybe didn't come out, he might have had a chance to save it, maybe, or maybe would have forced Adeyemi to go all the way down the line, maybe. But I think he came out a little bit too quickly. But that's just me being really critical, in my opinion. So, but I think from their perspective, it's a good counter-attacking goal, to be honest. But yes, sucks that we conceded, but yeah, it's what it is.
I mean, a few people, and you said it there as well now, when I say he should commit, obviously I don't mean just fly in with the tackle, but if you watch it back, Adeyemi is quite a few meters away from the ball when it first drops. Enzo could storm for it then, or when Adeyemi takes the first touch, because the first touch gives him a bit of distance. Again, I'm not saying fly in and risk a red card. Obviously, that would be a ridiculous thing to do. But again, I was like, either you do that or you turn your body and you're ready to, because Adeyemi is so fast anyway, and you're not as quick as him, then you need to at least give yourself the best chance you have to keep up with him. And if he starts running and you're still facing the wrong direction, well, then you make it even more difficult for yourself. I'm not saying he, did so badly wrong. I'm just saying he could have done a little bit better for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether that would have necessarily stopped the goal or not is a different discussion. But he could have still done a little bit better and make it a bit more clear what he was doing. At least from my perspective, he looked undecided what he wanted to do. One other thing I want to mention, it was Enzo furthest back, then it was Chilwell, and then it was Mudryk as the third player that was kind of running. I was like, Mudryk is so fast. I reckon if Mudryk put on the proper burners, he might have been able to.
He would have caught up with him easily.
Obviously, he don't know that in advance. I'm very aware. But think back to Thiago Silva against Liverpool at Wembley. He just committed. That. I'm gonna run back, maybe for nothing, but I'm gonna commit. If Mudryk did that, I reckon he might slide it off the line. But
that's Thiago Silva, though, bro, isn't it? It's like
he took the corner.
Yeah, I think it was Chilwell who took the corner. Yeah. Chilwell took a few corners actually. I think against Dortmund. Yeah.
No, absolutely. But I still think from the replay was Chile that was running back behind Enzo.
I can't remember actually.
Maybe it wasn't, but maybe even though he took the corner, maybe it was still him, because obviously it happened like the ball came in, Havertz touched it, then Felix touched it, then apparently was offside. I still didn't see it offside. Then it flies across the box again. Then they punt it. Maybe Chile just ran back straight away once he saw we sort of lost the ball. But anyway, Pice, in terms of the goal, much you want to add to what, considering what we were compared to what we said already? Oh, Pice, you muted. I'm not sure if you're aware. Pice? Oh, there you are.
I should be back. Hello?
Yeah, all good?
All right. I think... I just think, I don't know why we leave one player at the back. I think it's Anthony Barry that does it, but we've done it for like 3 seasons now. And I saw a picture of this guy tweeted, like, get out of my club, Anthony Barry with...
Yeah, that's the thread I was on about, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like 4 different pictures of goals we conceded over like the last 3 seasons of 1v1 transitions or even 2v1 transitions from corners. And
it's not even like we score that many that it's worth the risk. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I said the only player you can get away with that, or might even get away with that, is Kante at the back.
Kante or Reece. Those are the only two.
Maybe.
Zakaria maybe as well, because Zakaria is
true, but you'd want him in the box because he's tall.
Yeah, because he's massive. Yeah, I just sent you the tweet, by the way, Laurenz, the one we were on.
For me, if we don't have Kante, don't do it. Simple as that.
Yeah, there you go. Obviously, I can't show the tweet because we're gonna copyright for the clips. But no, I hear you. But it is true. We have a bit of an issue with that, and maybe we need to stop that. Maybe we need to stop that. But enough about the Dortmund game. Let's move on. We'll talk about the clinicalness stuff again when we talk about Southampton. Let's get through a few pieces of these news. I guess the first one, even though I hope Pice did, because I didn't have time to have done that yet. Where is it? There you go. Breaking. Chelsea considering Reece James for future Chelsea captain. They believe he can grow into the role within the next 12 to 18 months and are giving him greater off-the-pitch responsibilities. Now, other than that last sentence, this is the most news I've ever had because, well, duh. We all knew that. Maybe neutrals weren't as aware, but to me it was very obvious that since, just the way things developed over the last couple of years, because a few years ago everyone was talking about Mount being that guy and Lampard and Terry, they all mentioned Mount as the future captain. But I feel like how they characteristically both developed, to me, it was very obvious that once Thiago Silva leaves, Reece James will become captain. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but Pice, in terms of, is there anything else particularly interesting in the article which maybe says what off the pitch responsibilities we're talking about here?
I think first of all, grooming was a very interesting word to title that.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I think in the article it said like Chelsea have been giving him more media responsibilities in terms of interviews, and also, you know, that video where Thiago Silva and Reece came across and
Yeah.
congratulated him that Chelsea posted on Twitter. I think he said that was like intentional sort of thing. Apparently,
Oh, yeah?
Reece, apparently it was like intentional. So
Oh, very good.
Reece was supposed to be there or something, so like they could. I don't know whether it's to see the connection or whether to see how the fan reaction. I don't know, but I think they're being very clever. And he said, next like 12 to 18 months.
Just whenever Thiago leaves, like when we need to pick a next captain, I assume.
Well, I mean, even when
And
Aspie
Aspie,
leaves,
obviously.
you know, next season, I think it could be a case of like Silva captain, Reece vice captain. So, you know, Reece would then probably be captain quite a lot if we managed to rest Silva. So,
Good
I
point.
think that's the perfect situation for me.
I agree.
Yeah.
Same.
No, I couldn't agree more. I'm not sure how often Darmesh you get to go to games, but obviously, Pies, you do quite regularly at the bridge. And obviously, I can't as regularly, but was now. And it's like there was a moment where Reece and Thiago were not arguing, but going very much so back and forth about like, okay, no, we need to do this, and they were very adamant about it, but like in a positive way, not like in a having a go at each other way. And I like, because Reece is still a bit of a shy guy, like Pies, you were talking about it the other day in the group chat when he gave that interview. He was a bit like quiet and a few too many R's and pauses. I mean, he needs to get a bit more better in front of camera, I think. But on the pitch, I like that he's, I think, starting to come out of that shell more and more and more. If you compare it back to his first season at Lampard, big fan of it. But I'm sure, Darmesh, you agree, as pretty much every Chelsea fan, that, you know, as Aspie probably leaves in the summer, and then Thiago Silva after that, Reece will probably
100%.
take over as captaincy and should do so, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Obviously, with Thiago Silva re-signing, he should rightfully become the captain, I think, for at least the season. And obviously, Reece can learn off sort of Thiago Silva, which he has done already in terms of like leadership responsibilities, captaincy responsibilities, and that'll definitely help him. And Reece James is just perfect for the captaincy, man. Say 2 seasons time or 3 seasons time. So yeah.
Fair dues, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, as we move on to the Andrey Santos news, please subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. Every new subscriber counts. So please hit that big red subscribe button down below and hit the like button as well. But yes, unfortunately, according to a report from Brazil, and then also by Nizar Kinsella for the Standard, of course, Andrey Santos' work permit has been rejected. He would have to be an indispensable player. However, this is not the case, as Chelsea signed Enzo Fernandez and Zakaria on loan in his position. It also says down here, Santos missed out on enrolling normally for a work permit by 1 point. And I want to add something to that now, because before our last stream, so on Tuesday, I listened to Matt Law on London is Blue podcast. And Matt Law mentioned this missing out by 1 point being the case before this under-20s tournament. So I can't really understand how it's supposed to still be 1 point, because how Matt Law explained it, I'd flipping assumed that he would know that. Those kind of points you get for things like playing in the youth, setups of your national team, and you get more points for playing in the first team, which is just more difficult for a nation like Brazil, obviously. I'm not sure if you guys remember a few years ago when we signed Bertrand Traore, who of course was from Burkina Faso. We struggled with his work permit as well, but his country, Burkina Faso, at the time was in civil war, so they didn't have a national team. So, but you needed certain games for your national team to get the work permit. I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. If they are in civil war, how can you expect him to do this? Obviously, he got work permit in the end anyway. But yeah, I'm a bit confused by this, and I've a tiny bit of hope that this is slightly delayed news. What's come out here now? I don't know, Pedroza, and maybe it's even ridiculous of me to suggest that. Hopefully, it's just late info. But the fact that Matt Law said this by 1 point thing was the case before this under-20s South America Cup, and supposedly it's still 1 point. That doesn't make sense. Either it wasn't 1 point before, or it isn't 1 point now. It can't be both. That makes no sense. So I don't know what we're going to do, but hey, if he goes out on loan to like Palmeiras and plays a season in the first division of Brazil and plays in a Copa Libertadores and stuff, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, maybe he's good enough to immediately help. But if he comes in from the summer or whatever, because in the summer there's the Under-20s World Cup. So if he is still short of some points, he will most definitely have those points come the summer. So I don't think it's the biggest issue in the world. But Pies, is there anything? I'm not sure if you know, Pedroza, but like I say, Matt Law said this 1 point thing was the case before the tournament. So that makes it a bit strange, no?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Brazilian sources that I tweeted out are very reliable in Brazil.
Okay.
This was also titled an exclusive by him. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, one of them's wrong. We just
Yeah.
have to wait and see, I guess. I don't know.
But it's just typical, isn't it? Like, it's just, I guarantee if this was Manchester United, he would have got the work permit now. It just seems like exactly like last year, UK government, no, we don't like Chelsea, fuck you. That's what it feels like. Again, maybe I'm, slightly conspiracy theorist here, or I don't know, just feeling personally
That's
attacked for
funny.
everything. But, I mean, everything the UK government have done to this football club, they flipping froze up Barclays account. What does the football club have? Like, come on now. They still haven't done anything with all the money that Roman Abramovich wants to donate. They still haven't done anything because they're slow fuckers. My friend moved from Austria to England. He is English with his Austrian wife, and it took them 9 months to give her a visa. She was married to an Englishman. She's married to an Englishman. UK government does shit and everything. So for me, this is just calamity and typical UK government to me. Fabrizio tweeted. Did he tweet anything interesting, Pies? Have you seen it?
Nope, not seen anything.
Okay, I'll bring it up
No,
in a
I
second.
couldn't
Then.
either.
But yeah, anything you want to expand on that before I take this Andrey Santos topic to Darmesh in terms of, is it a big issue to you, the whole that he's not getting a work permit now? Pies?
Oh, me?
Yeah, sorry.
Not really. No, I don't think so. I mean, I'd like to have him in the squad, but I mean, actually, I guess it depends whether Zakaria is gonna play deeper or not now. Because I mean, we definitely need someone to partner Enzo. I mean, I hope that Graham Potter tries that. Zakaria Enzo pivot. Hopefully, Zakaria can be that guy who sits a little bit deeper. But it's also like, why I'm saying not really is because Santos is like 18 years old and he's not. I mean, he played well at the under-20 championships, very, very well. He won player of the tournament, man of the match in the final. But I don't know if he's really a true DM because from what I saw anyway, he loved bombing forward. So I don't really know he's fit into this Chelsea team at the moment, and I don't know whether he's ready, to be honest. So I'm not like bashing the walls about it, him not being in the squad. I mean, it would be nice if he stayed, I guess, but to stay just even instead of going out on loan, but because I think he was gonna I saw something the other day where he was like, I don't want to go out on loan no matter what. Yeah, so I don't really know what's going to happen. There's been a lot of news.
I don't mind. He's 18. If he just trains with the squad until the summer, that's not a bad thing either. Like, he's 18, he's going to improve just by training as well. He's going to feel settled. He's going to learn English. So like, not the worst thing from that perspective either. Darmesh, from your side of things, obviously we would have always liked him and we would have liked to see him, but because we're not in any cups anymore anyway, I would really like to just really throw him in Premier League games. Like, we're not throwing in Chukwuemeka. Are we really going to throw in Andrey Santos? I mean, I guess once the season becomes so hopeless, you might as well, I suppose. But
the Andrey Santos thing at the moment is, to be honest, I'm not really bothered about it at the moment. I think if we were sort of in more competitions next season, say if we were still in all 4 competitions, then I'd be all for having him in the team. And he's still quite young. He's still 18, isn't he? So he's still got lots of room to sort of grow and develop as a midfielder as well. Obviously smashing it in the under-20s at the moment, the championship at the moment. So yeah, I definitely want to see him have a loan at maybe like as I think Pies tweeted earlier was Palmeiras, wasn't it? He's going on loan until December, right? And then then on after that, I want to see him have like a maybe like a championship loan or maybe like a Premier League club loan, and then maybe come into the Chelsea first team. I want to see him sort of progress and trajectory at a high rate. Basically, I don't want to see him just being thrown in. That's my personal opinion. Right? I just want to see him have a couple of loan spells, see how it goes, see how he performs and stuff, and then bring him into the first team. Then, depending on our midfield situation in terms of whether Zakaria stays or whether like Havertz stays, for example, or Kante, then we can always sort of bring him back. To be honest, but like you said, Chukwuemeka's not even getting minutes. So like, what makes people think that Santos is going to get minutes, basically? So yeah, for me, it's just a wait and see. I think for Andrey Santos, but it is very promising given what I've sort of seen on him and what he can do with the football. But yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure how reliable this Bruno guy is. Maybe Pies knows better. But he says on Andrey Santos, Chelsea agreed to a loan until December, which makes sense because the Brazilian season runs from March to December, so that makes sense in that sense. Palmeiras is a strong favourite, but Atletico, MG, whatever the MSD stands for, and Inter, some team in Brazil called Inter, were also authorised to negotiate with the player who intends to talk to the three coaches. He will decide his own destiny in Brazil. Corinthians, in principle, is out. Is that because of the club Vasco da Gama? Maybe they're rivals of Corinthians or whatever. I don't know. But I mean, Price, do you know, is this Bruno Andrade guy? Is he reliable?
Yeah, him and Pedrosa are good. Pedrosa was the guy who actually broke the Andrey Santos had been sold to Chelsea. So, but this guy's good as well. I think he works for UAL or Sport. They're big in Brazil. So, yeah, I think both are pretty reliable. But I mean, if it comes out that Chelsea haven't agreed anything, then his reliability takes a bit of a hit. But yeah, I think he's pretty reliable in Brazil. He's quite big in Brazil.
Fair dues, fair dues. And now let's get to the big but also not big story of the day. Todd Bowley and Nasser Al Khelaifi, so I'm going to try to pronounce it, met over Neymar. Sources said Al Khelaifi and Bowley met in a luxury hotel near the Arc de Triomphe for lunch. In addition to Neymar, discussed the failed transfer of Ziyech and the Super League, according to Laurent Julien. Now, Fabrizio talked about this, that this didn't happen as such, or that we didn't necessarily discuss Neymar. But let's talk about it regardless. I'll just start off with my opinion on this. To me, there is very, very little likelihood of us signing Neymar. The only way in which I can see this happening, and also the only way in which I can see it being a reasonable idea, is if we don't sign Felix. Because we just signed Mudryk in that position for a lot of money, so I just very much doubt we want to create that kind of maybe slightly over-the-top unhealthy competition. And if we have Felix, because obviously Neymar can be on the wing, can be as a 10, and can play as a second striker, obviously. So if Felix doesn't join and we use Neymar as a 10, well, who doesn't like Neymar as footballer? Even if he's not, in my opinion, as good as people make him out to be. When I say that, I'm not saying he's bad. He's just, people said he would be as good as Messi, and he clearly never turned out to be as good as Messi. Doesn't mean he's still not superb. But he's also 31 now. Do you know what I mean? He said he doesn't even want to make it to the next World Cup. So, how much motivation, how much is still in Neymar? Especially while we're still in transition. If even next season, I very much doubt we're going to be likely to win the Premier League, win the Champions League. So, I guess the signing of someone like Neymar could, I guess, help, elevate that process or just accelerate that process. But yeah, to me, unless we don't sign Felix, I see it as very, very unlikely. Just because I just don't think it makes sense. Especially if we're not in the Champions League, there's no way on God's earth Neymar joins a team that's not in the Champions League. Just no way. I don't care how much Mbappe wants to get rid of Neymar and how much the media in France blow the PSG issues out of proportion. I mean, we know at Chelsea how much sometimes media blow things out of proportion. Doesn't necessarily always mean things are as bad as they make it sound to be. But Pies, number one, in terms of what is the level of these stories, should we pay any attention to it? And then also, what's your opinion on the whole thing?
Well, I mean, it's definitely an interesting one. Julian Laurenz is very, very well connected in France and everything that happens. Absolutely he is. There's also a couple of other French sources, I think L'Equipe or Le Parisien PSG, I think PSG local source tweeted the similar thing, that they all discussed supposedly about Neymar. But then, I mean, Fabrizio came out today in a live YouTube with House of Champions and said, well, they did meet, but it wasn't over Neymar. So it's just normal to meet. And they definitely discussed the Ziyech transfer and what happened there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Fabrizio does sometimes keep information quiet. He can't say everything he is, so he could just be downplaying it. But something still inside me feels like this ownership, they want a big superstar. They tried to sign Ronaldo. They want someone big, established big, not someone that is, it's fair enough, obviously, sign Enzo and all that. They're young stars that can be huge superstars. But something inside me has always felt that this ownership, they want that statement, look at us, look what we've done type thing. So, yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. But again, just like looking at our squad doesn't really make much sense, to be honest. So yeah.
No, there you go. I couldn't agree more. Charlie has joined us. Thank you. Straight from work. Appreciate it very much, mate. Also, big fan of the jacket. I rate it. I'm going to throw you straight under the bus. What you reckon, Neymar? Number one, would you even want it? Number two, do you think there's even the tiniest amount of chance that it happens? I said the only way in which it can happen is if we do not sign Felix. If we sign Felix, there's no way we get Neymar. With having Mudryk, with having Felix, like it just that you can have depth and having quality is good. But too many big egos is where it becomes a problem. Not too much quality is never a problem, but too many big egos, that's when it can be a problem. What do you reckon, Charlie?
I think, mate, to be honest, I think there's actually zero chance of this happening. Yeah. They talked about it. It was talked about a lot last summer, the summer just gone. It's obvious that PSG do want to try and move Neymar on, but there's going to be a handful of teams that can actually afford him. The transfer fee will obviously be a lot less than what was paid all those years ago. But in terms of his wage demands, etc.,
600k, someone in chat.
Yeah, sort of his wage demands, etc., are going to be impossible to meet. It will definitely break the wage structure that we're trying to employ, trying to put in at the club now, incentivize contracts, etc. I don't know if he'd sign up to that or not. And yeah, I just don't see it happening, to be honest. As you said, we've signed a lot of attackers. Mudryk's come in, Madueke, we've still got Sterling. Yes, there's players going out. Obviously, Pulisic will most likely leave. Hakim Ziyech will go. Maybe Kai Havertz as well. So there would be space. I know Nkunku's coming in, so he takes one of those slots. But when you're looking at sort of filling the squad out and depth options and whatnot, if you sign Neymar, you're not signing him as a rotation option. You're signing him to play. And then what does that mean for the likes of Mudryk, for example? So, it's in theory, it sounds like a great idea and be like, it would be amazing to see Neymar at Stamford Bridge in a Chelsea shirt. But the reality of the situation is I don't really see where he fits in. I don't see how he improves what we've got necessarily. Phenomenally talented player, so gifted, etc. But
again, he's 31 now. And
yeah, exactly.
He takes a month off every February as well.
Yeah, this is it. So I don't think part of me is like, this is really exciting. This would be great. Like the sort of the fanboy side of it. But then the actual reality of the situation is I just think this makes zero sense of what Chelsea are trying to do moving forward. So for me, on a personal level, it's a no. And on a that reality level,
logical, yeah.
I think it makes no sense at all.
Fair. Dharmesh, similar thoughts, or are you going to go against the grain and say we have to get Neymar? Because there's some people that are such big fans of Neymar that they'll take it no matter what. And I would most certainly be more willing and more excited by signing Neymar than I would have been a flipping signing Ronaldo. But it's just not smart, is it? Again, unless we don't sign Felix, then I'm like, okay, you can add some more crazy piece of quality there. But again, the wages, man, he's not going to take a wage cut by like half of it, is he? So like, we're like, what do we want to pay a player 600k a week? We're going to get to Mason Mount and contract the demands in a minute. But, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I agree with what the lads have said, to be honest. Like, that feeling of having Neymar at Chelsea will feel great. But at the same time, like, for what it'll do to our team, I don't think it's the right sort of fit for Neymar to come into our team. Especially with sort of the attackers that we've sort of bought in over January and in the summer as well. So, yeah, for me, it's a no. But at the same time, like as Charlie said, like as a fanboy perspective, it'd be like great as well. And what Pai said about that one sort of marquee signing that Todd Bowley's always wanted. Like this could be the player that we probably get, but at the same time, I just don't see how he'll fit into our team, to be honest. And I don't see him sort of adapting well to the Premier League, considering how physical it is. Like imagine Neymar going on like if Burnley come up next season and like he comes up against Burnley, for example, they'll just kick the shit out of him basically. And like we know how injury prone he is as well, given his age as well. So for me, it's a no in my opinion. I think we should definitely try and address the goal scoring situation and other areas of the pitch where, like midfield, for example, where we're actually in desperate need for it. But maybe if it was maybe about 3-4 years ago, we would have been very open to the idea. But the wages as well, man, like 600k weeks is ridiculous for someone like Neymar. Yeah, you're a mute, bro.
Sorry, 3 years ago, it would have also cost you like,
even more actually. Yeah. But I think for me at the moment, it's a no. I think.
Fair dues. The reason I bring this Nkunku stuff up, I will get to Mason Mount after that. Don't worry, guys. But the reason I bring this Nkunku stuff up is mostly because it kind of leads or helps with the Neymar discussion as well to a little extent. Because, here it says Chelsea see Christopher Nkunku to play behind the striker, which I always thought as much anyway. But they are also very happy with Joao Felix. Internally, they know they need a traditional number 9. So I'm like, okay, so you have Mudryk. You want to keep Felix. You're already assigning Nkunku. Felix and Nkunku both ideally play behind the striker. Where the flip are you putting Neymar? And if you're putting Neymar there, because you would if you had him, where the flip are you putting the other players? What's the point in having all of them? Do you know what I mean? Like, there comes a point where it's also over the top unnecessary in terms of amount of quality, and then it doesn't really benefit you anymore. But also interesting that they know they need a traditional number 9. And Pies, I'll take it to you again before I go to the other boys. This is a very interesting one. And by the way, Alhambra, I did see your super chat. I will get to it when we talk about the XG thing, as we talk about Southampton. Don't worry, I will get to it. But yeah, the traditional number 9 thing is still very interesting to me because, well, we still own Lukaku, who I don't see anyone wanting. I mean, he's injured all season. He's been awful all season. Inter can't afford him anyway. And any club that he would be good enough for at the moment can't afford him. And probably any club that he would want to go to won't want him. So I wouldn't even be shocked if we end up stuck with Lukaku, if I'm honest. But the question is, will we then just use him if we're stuck with him, or will we then still sign a new striker? Because, I mean, I would say get Ivan Toney, but I can't say that until we know what's happening with the betting charges. Because until that happens, and I wouldn't even be surprised that if he gets suspended the second we sign him, because again, UK government are not liking us or the FA. And then if you go for someone like Osimhen, I have the same question as I have with, after Lukaku. I can't trust any Serie A strikers. I still feel Osimhen, Vlahovic, all the same. They are best when they have a bit of space. We don't tend to have a lot of space in the Premier League. So is that even what we should be going for? That's why Ivan Toney would probably be my choice. Obviously Harry Kane, but we're not getting him, so I'm not even mentioning him as an option. But yeah, Vice, what do you make of this? Obviously, you were kind of adamant that you thought Nkunku would play up top, I guess. We'll see whether Fabrizio is right. I'm sure Nkunku will play a game or two up top at times. But if we want or need a traditional number 9, what do you think happens there? Do you think we sign someone? Do you think we end up stuck with Lukaku and then not sign someone? How do you think that one ends up going? Pies, you here?
I think we'll sign someone, but I don't know whether it will necessarily be, like a starting striker. Like, again, it's very, very hard to predict what's going to happen right now because, if we currently, like, if Graham Potter sticks to like a 4-2-3-1 as his main formation, it's going to be hard to, fit Felix and Nkunku, a big, like, world-class striker into the same team. But you could also, again, have, I don't know, Felix or Nkunku drifting from wide, and then, you can fit in a big striker that way. But then you've also got like Sterling and Madueke off the bench. So there's a lot of different angles you can look at it. But I had been adamant up until now that, Nkunku would play up top. Felix would probably play behind him. But I feel like the more, they're going to seem like a dig, but I feel like the more they're watching Havertz, they're thinking, well, we may need, a traditional actual number 9. Like, can we really rely on Nkunku to do this for the whole season? Nkunku, by the way, is a miles better finisher than Kai Havertz, but still, do you really want that? Like, so I feel
He's
like
not going
maybe
to score you headers now, is he?
To be fair, he scored 2 against Man City last season, but you still feel the need, I think, for having that traditional striker, whether that be, I don't know, a backup, who knows, but I feel like it will happen. Yeah. But it's just difficult because every time we've signed one, like we've kind of wished we hadn't. So what angle do you take with it? It's definitely something that they're going to discuss months down the line anyway. So I'm not getting too stressed over about it right now.
No, fair. I mean, Charlie, what do you make of this? We feel that we need a traditional number 9. Do you see it like Pies where we might get one, like a bit of like a Giroud type signing where you're like, who's not supposed to necessarily come in and start every game, but you at least have that traditional style number 9 available. Is that what you see happening? Or do you think we'll go for someone big like an Osimhen? Or do you reckon we'll end up stuck with Lukaku and just try it again because we can't get rid of him anyway? What do you reckon?
No, I see no chance of Lukaku playing for Chelsea again. I think we'll just extend the loan by another season, but providing Inter Milan want him, or I think he'll go somewhere else. I don't see anywhere of him fitting back. Yes, I tweeted this out a while back. That there is a chance that I feel that Lukaku with these better players around him could potentially be better. But at the same time, he's not done anything into this season. He struggled to get himself fit. He's had a terrible season, not scoring many goals or anything. So I just think we need to move on from that whole saga. He's not going to really be part of the plans. He doesn't fit in the project and what we're trying to do. But in terms of a number 9, it depends what we want to do, because as I said, every time we signed a 9, it's been shit since Costa left. Well, it's been shit for very much most of the last 20 years, other than Drogba and Costa. Everyone's been a flop. Aubameyang, Lukaku, Morata, Higuain, Shevchenko to an extent, Torres.
You can even mention Crespo. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, nah. Crespo was decent, but look,
but no more than decent, because he was one of the best strikers in the world at the time. He should have been more than decent.
It depends. It depends what we're looking to do. Yes, the attacking players, when Nkunku comes in and if Felix becomes permanent, yes, they're much better than what we've had, but I still wouldn't rely on those guys to be prolific amongst the goals. I mean, Nkunku's definitely more of a goal scorer than Joao Felix is. He definitely puts up decent numbers, but I don't think you could rely on Nkunku to be your main number 9 for going forwards. As you say, I think you can get by them in a few games here and there, leading the line, no problem. In terms of Felix, I don't see him as an out-and-out 9 either. If you look, fantastic player, so good, so technically gifted. We've seen what he can do in the short space of time he's been here. I'd love to make it permanent, but one thing throughout his career, I know he's only 23, so it's still early days, but like he's not someone that scores you a lot of goals. Now that might develop later in his career, and he might improve his finishing, but I don't think he's actually scored more than 10 league goals in a season in his career so far. I could have completely made that up, but I think that is right. I mean, I'm sure someone will correct me if that's wrong. So,
say it again.
I don't think he's scored more than 10 league goals in a season in his career.
Who?
Felix. No, Felix.
Felix. Yeah,
that's right, Charlie.
Yeah, I think that is right. I mean, so if we're looking to rely on him for goals, that I don't think that's the answer. But then you look at 9s, and this might sound stupid because there's like levels and ability, the gap, but I would rather have Ivan Toney than Victor Osimhen, purely based on the fact, like, one, cost factor as well. Even though it's not my money, I still like Tony's going to be much cheaper.
Sure that he would be that much cheaper?
Yeah, mate. Tony's not going to be.
Tony's English. You know how much that adds on.
Yeah, but I don't know what his contract situation is, but Osimhen is not. Osimhen's not leaving for less than 100 million minimum. No, whereas Toney, you're getting you could do it for 60 mil, I reckon. Maybe 70.
Especially if there's no charges confirmed by then he might even go for 40.
Well, quite possibly. I'd rather have Toney than Osimhen or Vlahovic, just purely because, one, he's Prem proven, which is a massive bonus. I know, like, it's not the be all and end all. It doesn't mean you're going to be a success just because you've been good in the league and another team.
Lukaku is proof of that. Right?
Yeah, well, exactly. But I just feel that, like, that sort of target man profile, physical centre forward, is actually what we've had the most success with in our forwards. Drogba, Costa, Toney, of a similar mould. That's that kind of, good in the air, physical presence, is a decent finisher. So I would rather have him. I would rather have him over anyone else in the summer. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But it's a really important decision to make, because we've gone down the big name number 9s so many times, and it's just flopped pretty much every time, bar 2 times. So it's a really tricky decision to make in the summer. But for me, I do think we need a number 9, but I think we need to go with someone that's not like a massive name, basically.
Yeah, there you go. Damis, what's your thoughts on, that Nkunku will not play up top, and then therefore we potentially want a number 9. What do you think happens with that? What would you do with that?
Yeah, reading that, it's kind of puzzled me a little bit, because does that sort of mean Joao Felix won't sign for us permanently with sort of in mind that Nkunku's going to play in that sort of position where Felix is playing right now. That's kind of
I
puzzled
figured
me a
out a
little
way
bit,
how
but-
I think we can make it happen. I'll show it up on screen in a second, but you finish your point first. Before
Yeah, but I think just generally anyway, like obviously having them two as an option to play in that position is fantastic anyway for sort of rotation wise and versatility. I think because they can both sort of play that role where they can play as like a central striker or like a cam basically. But obviously they're both sort of best positioned as a cam. But yeah, in terms of number nines, I agree with what Charlie said about Ivan Toney, man. I've said on his stream loads of times that I'd take Ivan Toney like any day, man. Obviously, given the price as well, like compared to Osimhen as well, wouldn't cost as much as Osimhen. Perfect build, like the perfect sort of personality for our team as well. We've missed someone with like a massive personality in that bit of shit house that we've missed from like say Costa and even like a Drogba at times. And Tony's that perfect player. Like a lot of people underestimate his link-up play with sort of Mbeumo and like I forgot the other attacker's name. But,
he's the closest thing to Kane you're gonna get in terms of style of striker.
Oh, I mean, Harry Kane.
I've seen Tony ping passes left, right, centre.
Yeah,
again, he's not like Kane, but he's the closest thing to it you're gonna get, I reckon.
Yeah, Ivan Toney he's such a good player, man. I really want him at Chelsea, man, 100%. But like another name that I thought of, I know it would never happen in a million years, but someone like Julian Alvarez, that kind of sort of striker, that kind of build of a player, I'd really like at Chelsea. I don't know what you boys think of that. I know it probably won't happen, but someone of that sort of style of play, I think would really suit us, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We haven't really tried to strike off the style of an Alvarez or an Aguero. We haven't really had that type of striker. So be interesting
with the players that we got. I think it could work potentially.
It could do. Let me just bring this up, and I won't claim that I've thought of this all fully by myself. But the only way in which I see this working is you line up like this initially, whoever the striker may be, and then I would finally see a logic why we'd have a Cucurella who's completely useless going forward. Because what you then can do is that one, because you let one side attack. And then you basically have 2 10s, and then either you have a back three or you make a midfield, three like that, like City often do. And you play like this. I know people are going to say I do crazy things, but if you actually pay attention to football, this is often what happens. You have a 3-man midfield, 2 at the back, or you leave 3 at the back and have 2 in the middle. And I guess if you only push one side up, then you basically just have 2 10s. Both Nkunku and Felix can be that. Behind the striker, Mudryk left, James right. Jobs are good at. Do you know what I mean? I think that can work because I've wrecked my brain because to me it's been a little bit of a concerning thing for a little while where I'm like, but how on earth are you going to put Nkunku and Felix in the same team if neither of them can play striker? Because sure, they don't always have to play both, but you don't want to be in a situation where you can only play one. You don't want that to be the case. So maybe this is how it's going to work. I don't know. It's just a suggestion. Again, I'm not saying this is necessarily how it's going to be. But again, This is one suggestion I have. But we do need to talk about the Mason Mount thing because people love talking about Mason Mount. And wait, is it the right one? Yes. Let me bring this one up. Liverpool are pushing hard to sign Mason Mount, and with contract standoff, Mount is to be believed to want treble his current wages, which sit at £80,000 a week. And yeah, there's been a few reports from other journalists as well. Not necessarily that Liverpool are pushing hard, but that there's no current movement in terms of increased negotiations, no new offers, blah, blah, blah. Apparently also Mason Mount has changed his agent recently from a normal agent to his dad, which has slowed things down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, 3 times 80k would be 240. Again, I don't think that would be the most outrageous thing, depending on if it's flat out wages or if that is including bonuses. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Even if I don't think there's some issues with Mount, absolutely. But I think the last thing we should be entertaining is selling Mason Mount to a Liverpool, to a Man United, to a City. Like, we would just be absolute clowns. Do you know what I mean? Like, we would be absolute clowns for doing that. It would just end up like another Salah and De Bruyne. I know Salah and De Bruyne didn't have as many chances at Chelsea.
He's not that good, bro. He's not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Did you think when Salah was here, he was as good? No, you didn't. Did you think when De Bruyne was here that he would be as good? No, you didn't. It doesn't matter. You can't judge of now what happens then.
He's only
again, I agree with you. I think you're probably right. But if you asked me that about De Bruyne when we sold him, I would have never said he would be this good either. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't think about it. Liverpool, City, United. I mean, United maybe a little bit less so. But Liverpool, City, they're not stupid teams. They don't tend to sign shit players. If they want him, he's probably half decent, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? Do not sell to rivals. I don't want to sell any players to rivals, let alone players that are, in situations like it is with Mason Mount. We cannot absolutely ruin it. Now, if Juventus become interested and we actually don't find a way to give Mount the new contract, yeah, maybe then we can talk about it. Like, you have to, because if Mount doesn't sign a new contract, we don't want to lose him for free now, do we? To Juventus, maybe you can entertain the idea. But I am absolutely refusing to sell to a Premier League club. And I think anyone that does is kind of sick in their head a little bit, if I'm honest, because, that's just insane. Like, what? Imagine we sold some of, again, he's not always been good, but for the last 3 years, he's been the mainstay in our team. Imagine we'd ever sell one of the mainstays in our team for 3 years.
That's not a good thing.
One of our biggest rivals. Like that. That's insane.
That's not a good thing that he's been the mainstay in our team.
Maybe not, but that's not his fault. That's the fault of not having better players than him. Now that we have,
and now we do. Look what's happening.
He's not the mainstay anymore. So,
and now we do have these top players. Look what's happening. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's all fair enough. But again, do Liverpool and City tend to sign bad players?
I think it could be a good option for them, but I don't think it's something to go crazy about.
Because if he's not going to go there for less wages than he's asking from us. So if he would agree to go to any of them, they will give him those wages.
I mean, if they want to give him 240k a week, he can happily go, in my opinion. But
yeah, but you are mental. You cannot entertain selling to Premier League rivals. That's stupidity, in my opinion. I'm sorry. I know I'm harsh about this, but no. It does. I say this for every player, by the way. I also wouldn't entertain selling Pulisic to any of these teams. I don't think we should. Spurs don't give us players. Why should we be the idiots that give our players to our rivals? It's stupid. Why would we help them? It's ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And like I say, I think if you give him 200k, 220, I don't give a shit, do I? Does that change anything? It doesn't change anything. He's still better than Raheem Sterling, who's on 325k. So that's my thoughts on this. Dharmesh, I'll go with you first. What are your thoughts on this? Are you as adamant as I am in terms of do not sell to rivals, because I am also of the agreement, if he doesn't agree to sign a new contract, well, then it is what it is. We need to get rid. Just make sure you get rid to elsewhere, not in the Premier League.
Yeah, this Mason Mount saga, man. It's just there's always stuff on it every day, whether he's going to sign. There's maybe a breakthrough in terms of re-signing him and stuff. But I've always said with Mason Mount, I definitely would want to keep him, but I don't want him as a starter. I want him just purely as a squad player for the current players that we've got right now. That's just my personal opinion. So I think for the past sort of 2.5 seasons, I thought he was quite good for us, but only since I think, even though last season he got the GNA that he did, I didn't think he had as good as a season as he did when we won the Champions League, I thought. And I've always said I'd rather keep him as a squad player, but if he wants 200k a week, man, I'm sorry, I think that's a bit too much for someone who wants as for myself, a squad player. I wouldn't keep him on that money. And I get your point about selling to rival clubs, because you're kind of worried that they're going to turn out to be really good. And I do think that if he does go to Liverpool, I think he'll do pretty decent, to be fair, at Liverpool, just because of the profile. I think Klopp's looking at more sort of players that fit his sort of system and profile. And I think one of my mates is a Liverpool fan was saying that they're switching formations next season as well, I believe as well. So Mason Mount will probably somehow fit into there as well. Look at Marcus Rashford.
Just because someone's in bad form for a while doesn't mean it's bad player.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think obviously the biggest thing is money, isn't it? At the end of the day, if he wants that money, we obviously don't want to give him that money. Then he's obviously gonna look elsewhere. So yeah, I just hope that sort of we can come up with a solution, whether that's him staying or him going, because it's gonna filter through to the dressing room after that, given how sort of big he is in the dressing room as well, regardless of what you think of him. He is a big player in that sense of influence in the dressing room, outside dressing room as well. So yeah, I'm just not sure, Mason Mount. I do think he's been really overplayed though for the past sort of 3 years for club and country. When he should have just been sort of like a Phil Foden, where he was sort of building up his minutes and then and learning off sort of the best. But at that time, we didn't really have the best. So because Phil Foden was learning off players like David Silva at the time, and then having a few games here and there, and then now integrating him to the system, which we should have done with Mason Mount instead of overplaying him, I thought. But now that he's sort of burnt out, you can just tell. And and it definitely doesn't warrant a starting place in the team, and should definitely hold bench for a while. But yeah, I keep saying if he wants that money, like, he's gonna have to be a squad player, unfortunately, and that's what I would probably keep him as.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, obviously, every squad player, I guess, has the chance to fight their way back into the team. I mean, people are comparing Mount to Rashford now, lol, and who said that Rashford actually performed at a world-class level? Mount never ever has. I think it's weird. Do people just forget that he had a goal contribution in every single knockout stage of our Champions League win? Like, again, this is a while ago, but you can't just say he was never good. Like, again, he's not good now. I think we all agree on that. But to say he was never good is ridiculous. And to claim Rashford was ever world-class until maybe now is equally as ridiculous. What's Rashford ever done? Like, for United have never done anything. Since Rashford has been their player, what's the best thing they've done to win the Europa League? Flipping amazing. Congratulations. But Pies, Pies, I will go with Charlie first. I'll let you go last. Charlie, your thoughts on this Mason Mount situation? By the way, David Ornstein has released a quite big tweet. We'll get to that just when we're done with the Mason Mount conversation.
Mate, Mason Mount, for me, the conversation is so boring. It's proper tedious. Like, you're allowed to have a bad season as a player. Like, you're not going to have a good season every single season. Look how shit Foden's been this season, right? Barely gets in the City team, doesn't play. He's behind Grealish, he's behind Mahrez. He's having problems. He recently signed a massive contract at City. Don't know what the money is, don't know what the details are, but it's definitely probably more than Mason Mount was asking for. I'm not saying that Mount's a better player than Foden, but you could argue that Mount's done more for Chelsea than Foden has for City.
You couldn't just argue; it's factually correct.
Well, and it would be factually correct as well. Where was Foden in that Champions League final?
Nowhere near Phil Foden.
No. I'm not saying that he's anywhere near Phil Foden's abilities. But what I'm
Lampard
saying
wasn't as talented as Steven Gerrard either. Still had a better career though.
But what I'm saying is that Mount, like, imagine Man City fans treating Foden the way that we treat Mount.
They wouldn't, because he's a top talented player.
Yeah, but it's
facts.
But Mount's proven that he can be good for Chelsea, right? I don't understand why there's
overrated though,
and then tell me
but no one's denying that Mount is in shit form right now and shouldn't be in the team. That's not a debate. That's clear as day. That is the situation, and that's what should be happening. The problem, I think, where the issue arises is the fact that he's negotiating a new contract when he's playing shit, and people don't like that because people look at it and they think, oh, he's asking for X amount of money, but he's playing really shit. There's no way that should happen. How outrageous is that? And, instead of actually looking at it on the whole, people are just looking at this season rather than when you're negotiating a contract, you don't just take into account the last few games and then base the contract offer on that. You're basing it on what this guy can do for the club. Now, I'm not saying that Mason Mount should be an automatic starter for Chelsea and that there aren't better options out there. There are. But I think it would be very stupid for Chelsea to allow Mount to leave. Now, I'm not saying that, like, if Mount were to leave and he was to go to a Liverpool, for example, that he would suddenly do similar things to what Salah's done or similar things to what Kevin De Bruyne has done. But I think it would be a very stupid thing for Chelsea to do to allow Mason Mount to join a direct rival in Liverpool, because ultimately, even if he, were to leave and he was to go there, then there are no guarantees he'd be amazing or anything, but you are strengthening a direct rival in a situation that is very much avoidable. Like, if he doesn't want to sign for the club, then there's not much we can do about it. But I'd find it very strange if Mount didn't want to sign an extension at Chelsea. I can understand that maybe he doesn't want to commit to that many years. He might have other ideas of maybe wanting to move on later in his career. And if you sign a whatever year, 6-7 year contract at 24, that takes you up to it takes you up to 30, 31 or whatever. And it's difficult to leave potentially if you wanted to leave at any point during that time. So I can understand maybe he doesn't want to sign that long a deal, but there's no doubt that Mason Mount deserves a pay rise at Chelsea. That's not even.
It's also like a case of if he gets quite a big wage now, that's also kind of making up for how low of a wage he was on while actually being good. Right now, he might not be.
I mean, look,
while he was helping us win the Champions League, you could argue he deserves to be on a lot more money than 80k.
What he's on now a week is like, I mean, we're talking about money here, but this is like ridiculous money. I mean, it's not big money in football, but just like everyday life. I mean, that's more than a lot of people earn in a whole year on a weekly basis, and he definitely deserves a pay rise based on what he's been doing, what he's done over the last couple of years. When he was, in good form for the club, particularly that Champions League winning season, when you see that he's on that money and like the likes of Havertz, Kepa, others, Ruben, Hudson-Odoi, etc., on twice as much money as him, that's going to piss you off because you're playing week in, week out, delivering the goods, and these guys are doing fuck all. And
the only guy trying to do anything useful, while we were absolutely in the mud on the Lampard, everyone else doing fuck all.
Everyone else doing fuck all and paid twice or three times as much. So for me, like it's two-sided. This yes, he definitely deserves a pay rise, 100% for what he's done for Chelsea so far. But then there's also the caveat that right now he shouldn't be an automatic starter, and until he proves otherwise that maybe that he should be. And maybe with these new players coming in, it will kind of push him to up his game, and that competition for places will breed success and make and elevate players' levels up than what they were at before, because there was no competition for places, and regardless of how shit you played, you were always going to play. So for me, I think yes, he deserves a new contract. Why do we always talk about money? Like, does it really matter how much money? I don't give a fuck how much money a player's played. If they perform for Chelsea, they can be paid £1 million fucking pounds a week. I don't care. As long as you're doing the good, you're delivering the performances on the pitch, I don't care what you're paid. It doesn't matter. Like, is anyone actually worth?
Strategy, bro.
Yeah, I know they are, but what I'm saying is, like, does it actually matter how much someone's paid as long as they're doing the job on the pitch? And I guess,
but he's not doing the job on the pitch.
No, he's not. No, I know. But what I'm saying is, though, like, at the end of the day, he deserves a new contract, and it's unfortunate that the negotiations are coming in the worst spell of his career. So people put those things together and think it's outrageous. So yeah, it's a tiresome conversation, really, because it's just the same old. Really, nothing's changed. He still hasn't negotiated. Like, they're negotiating a new deal. It's not been agreed yet.
Yeah,
people don't like.
That's a good point. Before I take it to Pies, can I just add one thing to this? Because all the reports have been about in the last few months have been what Mount is demanding. No, as far as I was aware of this, there's been no report in terms of what we have actually offered. Because have we offered made an actual offer? Has it been only negotiation rather than an actual offer? Because it's one thing him saying, okay, I want 3 times as much as now. But then if Chelsea come to him and say, okay, we're not going to give you 240, but we're going to give you like 180 with bonus clauses to get up to like 250 or whatever, or 240. But those bonus clauses are difficult to achieve. But if you do, you get the big money. Because has he had the option to say yes to that or no to that yet? Because again, and I don't know if the media does this on purpose or whatever, but it's only about what he demands. It's not been him having turned anything down that Chelsea have offered him. Let's wait for Chelsea to actually.
Has anything been offered yet?
There has been one report,
but not recently, right? This was before the World Cup.
Yeah, it wasn't recently, no, but he did turn down a offer.
But it's very normal.
Exactly. But obviously, no one's going to accept the first offer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, it's very normal for a first offer to be turned down. That does happen more times than not. I just wanted to address one thing in the chat that this Ocker geezer said. I've never said that Rice is better than Enzo, and I'm not backing Mount. And I'm not backing Mount because he's English. I'm just saying that he deserves a new contract and he gets harshly treated. And I've never said that he should be starting every week or whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, that's. Yeah,
Rice is going with, after all this time, yeah, of Chelsea fans saying Jorginho or Rice, they're both going to end up at Arsenal.
Exactly, and Arsenal are going to finish ahead of us in the league, so that's fun. But yeah, Wing only 200k a week. I'm giving Mount is in Naira. I assume that's
in Naira.
I'm not sure.
Is that
Sorry.
Benny?
But yeah, I think that is a relevant factor. Let Chelsea make him an offer, and let's see if, because Mount might want whatever. I don't know. I would like an airplane. If someone offers me a car, I'd still take it though. Do you know what I mean? So like, if Chelsea offer Mount 180k and he says yes, then number one, all of you are going to look like absolute mugs because, well, shocker, he might have wanted 240, but look, as soon as he was offered 180, he might turn it. He might accept it. We don't know that yet. So
this is
that's
another
the
thing
part I find weird. Why are they only talking about what's demanded?
But
Why
also,
no one said what we've offered?
But also, you might demand. They might go into those negotiations. They might be like, they might want 180, but they'll negotiate at like 200 or 220, and then they'll probably like count. They'll maybe counter it to like, we'll offer you X, which is what they wanted in the first place. But if you go in higher, then what you actually want, then it's going to be better.
Like I don't know, some sort of mark, and you're trying to haggle down a price, and you're like, you're willing to pay a tenner. You're going to still start at 5 if you want to pay a tenner, because if you start at 10, you're never going to get it for 10.
No.
So but
it's the same thing.
I know you disagree quite heavily with myself and Charlie on this, but without me interrupting you, just what is your thought?
No, I don't want to add much, to be honest. I just disagree with a few things you guys have been saying. That's all. I don't like it. I'd be going on for like 20 minutes if I started, so I'd rather just move on.
Fair enough.
By the belly.
Let's bring up this tweet from David Ornstein then. Chelsea have not yet applied for Andrey Santos' work permit. 18-year-old was not going to play for Chelsea this season and has international duty, so likely to join a Brazilian top-tier side on loan before getting work permit in the summer. Key part of midfield rebuild. Now, this is interesting, isn't it? So what we've learned now is no Brazilian journalist is reliable because they all know fuck all. And also pretty much every other journalist, I mean, Pice would know much better than me, but I feel like there's been a lot, and I mean a lot of journalists that have claimed how, Santos we want him to use him in the squad this season, and we want this and we want that. And now he's saying we were never even planning to use him this season. So what now, Pice? What do we think?
I don't know, man. You can't really deny Ornstein's information. I think it was collaborated with Simon Johnson as well. So, I mean, The Athletic are very reliable, of course. Probably the number one publication for me. But it's just interesting how those Brazilian journalists got that info, especially the exclusive over the Premier League. Pedrosa, said that the Premier League had contacted Chelsea to let them know specifically why it was rejected. And the fact that he broke he literally was the first journalist in the world to say Santos has been sold to Chelsea. He's very reliable in Brazil. So I don't know how, what's gone wrong here. It's very confusing.
Yeah, but it's very weird. Sorry, Charlie, you were about to say something before.
When there's even reports today, I think I read something by Nizar, and I know people say he's perhaps not as reliable. He's dropped off these days, but there's multiple reports in the British press saying that he's had a work permit rejected. They missed out by 1 point or whatever it was. And it's apparently that's the second time it's been turned down. So apparently, I don't have any reason to disbelieve Ornstein because he's right with virtually everything he does.
You reckon this is maybe like a club brief to kind of say, maybe. They know it's been rejected and they're like, we never applied for it in the first place.
But do you think Ornstein would be susceptible to a club brief?
Oh yeah, definitely. The Athletic do it all the time, bro.
Yeah, but the Athletic and Ornstein is not necessarily the same thing.
But he's collaborating.
Ornstein is very much prides himself on only saying what's factual.
He's collaborated with Simon Johnson though, so we don't know which bits are from Simon.
But it's still him that tweeted it.
Yeah, Simon did as well though.
But this doesn't matter.
It's not a lone article from David, is what I'm saying.
I think Fabrizio tweeted before this come out that Santos was pretty close to joining Palmeiras on loan.
Well, we know he's going on loan, but we don't know whether, as Ornstein said, did we apply or did we not? We're
never going to know that. Well, we will at some point, but not now.
He's not going to play for us till next season, probably anyway.
No, he won't. They won't play next season.
Yeah,
exactly. All right, boys. Shall we move on to actually talking about Southampton tomorrow? we played the team that's bottom of the league. Now, they're not appointing Jesse Marsch, which initially looked like was happening, and then all of a sudden it wasn't happening. So that's fun. I'm not sure if I prefer that, if I like that less, considering last time we played Jesse Marsch away. Well, I guess tomorrow is not away, but still, last time we played Jesse Marsch, we lost 3-0, didn't we? So, that's brilliant. But we need to win tomorrow. Like, as much as I was like, oh, yeah, it's a bit of improvement. And, yeah, first 20 minutes against West Ham was pretty good. And the Dortmund game was overall pretty good. And, yeah, we just missed some chances. We will get better. Like, yes, there's process. And we are, backing, most of us here, at least, I think, are backing, the whole process and Potter. But there are limits to things. I'm not saying if we don't win now, I will say sack Potter immediately. But what I'm saying is we need to win tomorrow. And I don't care. Well, I do care how. I would like to win nicely and convincingly and not scrape it. But what matters most is win. Tomorrow there's no ifs, buts, or maybes. We need to win tomorrow. And because a lot of the excuses that rightly we, including myself and others, gave Potter in terms of, he's still missing these guys and that guy, he's not missing many of those anymore. He's basically only missing Kante at this point. And obviously fully fit Kovacic and Zakaria, they haven't played yet. So that makes a difference. But assuming that one of Kovacic or Zakaria will be involved tomorrow, there's very limited of the excuses we gave him a month ago are still valid. Now it's, okay, gelling as a team with a lot of new players, okay, that's still fair enough. But we're playing bottom of the league Southampton at Stamford Bridge. We better win, man. Like, we better win. And on that note, shout out to Felix, by the way, who did the research for it and came up with the stats. Well, at least he was the first one I saw come up with this. And this is where the title and what was on the thumbnail. In the last 6 games, which is not many, last 6 games, we created an XG of 10.43 and only scored 3 goals. You know how bad that is? United created 10.38 less than us and scored 13, and we scored 3. That is so ridiculous.
Is it bad that I don't even remember the 3 goals?
Mate, well, Felix last week, and then since then, I don't even know.
Havertz, I think it's.
Mate, it was the 2 goals against fucking Bournemouth, wasn't it? Those were the 3 goals.
And against Palace must be as well. I think Bournemouth is more than 6 games ago.
Is it?
Yeah.
I just last 6 games.
We
not
scored
league
against
games.
West Ham 1, right? We scored against Palace 1.
But this is just league. This is just league games, yeah. And this is all games, not league. Not just the league.
But did we play any but league games until Dortmund?
No, I don't know.
City maybe is still in the last 6.
Wasn't it?
But regardless, we scored 1 against West Ham. We scored 1 against Fulham at home. Did we?
No, none. It was 0-0.
Oh yeah, it was.
Palace,
we won 1-0 against Palace.
Yeah.
And then I don't know where the third goal's from. Oh, we lost 2-1 away at Fulham, didn't we? Or did we lose 2-0?
I know we lost 2-1.
2-1.
So it's Fulham away,
Palace
at home, and West Ham away. Those are the 3 goals we scored. Fucking brilliant. Do you know what I mean? But out of 10.43, that's a big fucking issue, man. It's a big issue. Pies, I'll let you go first because you didn't really want to say much about Mason Mount. What do we do with this information? Like, is it a case of, are we now just going to jump on the back of our strikers again and say, now they are shit again, when a month ago we blamed the lack of creativity for it? Like, or is it just that we will always have an issue with both at the moment? We will always have an issue with either. Once the one thing works, the other one doesn't. And if the one thing works, then the other one doesn't. Do you know what I mean? What do you think about this, mate?
I don't really know where this 10.43 XG has come from, to be honest. But
probably 6 of it was against Dortmund, but
yeah, I mean, it seems quite confusing knowing how we've played before Dortmund. But converting 3 goals out of that is just ridiculous. I don't know what the solution is. I guess just time, more shooting drills. I don't know, attacking drills. Just hope as well, a bit of luck, Potter did mention that we need a bit of something going for us, just to get some confidence into the players that are missing the chances. But it's interesting because I think like the players, like the attacking players, they do seem to be playing with confidence. Like Felix, Mudryk, I thought looked very bright, even though he was a bit raw. He still looked confident.
It was a bit. The one thing I didn't like about Mudryk, he seemed very one-dimensional. It's the same thing every time. I found that a bit.
I don't know, maybe, but
only against West Ham. In the game before, it was a bit more.
Yeah, I think like you said, that there's no real sort of excuses not to be scoring goals now and not creating chances. I mean, you've got Reece James back. Don't know if he's going to play tomorrow actually, because I
Yeah,
think he's played quite a
good point.
bit. But even so, you'd like to think Zakari and Kovacic will get minutes, which hopefully will let Enzo go forward and create a little bit more, especially if it's Zakaria, not so much Kova. But yeah, I mean, Felix is going to play again. Mudryk, you might have a difference in striker, but you might have Sterling coming off the bench as well. Potter said he's going to be in the squad, so there's a lot of attacking talent there. I need 3 goals put past Southampton tomorrow at least for me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Charlie, what would you say about these stats? It doesn't look good, but do you just put this down as we're just bad at finishing, or is it a case of lacking a little bit of luck, lacking a little bit of form, lacking confidence, or what do you put this down to when you see these stats?
I think it's a bit of everything. When you're playing with confidence, when the team's getting good results, like your chances go in more often than not. But when you're not doing well, you're in a bad spell. Nothing seems to go in. Yes, we don't create an awful lot. We have created a little bit more in the last few games, and we've struggled for years to put the ball in the back of the net and score goals. So I'm not surprised at all at those stats and the fact that there's such a lack of goals in the team, because we haven't got that cutting edge at the top of the end of the pitch. We're not clinical. Hopefully, when these new players start to gel a bit more, they've had a bit more time on the pitch, a bit more time to get to know each other, then that might change. But it is, for me, there's slight encouragement in the fact that in the last few games, we've actually created a lot of chances. It's just been the finishing letting us down rather than us not creating anything. So for me, the missed chances is not as bad as not creating any in the first place, if that makes sense. So the fact we're not putting the ball in the net is really annoying, but it would be even worse if we weren't creating anything. And the fact we've looked a lot more creative in the last few games is a positive for me, but it's still a problem we can't score. But it's definitely better.
At some point you need to kick on from it and start scoring them.
But it's better to have it that way round than the other way round for me.
Absolutely. Damesh, your thoughts? 10.43, 3 goals out of that. It's not good, is it?
Yeah, looking at that, it's baffling, man. Like compared to sort of what the other teams on there have sort of like converted in terms of like
more than Arsenal, man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. But yeah, like Charlie said, I think these players just need time to gel with each other. And like, fair enough, it's been poor finishing at the same time, but we do have to remember it's only been about 3 or 4 games like these players have played together realistically, and they haven't even played that full 90s together. And like, yeah, it's just frustrating. But hopefully that stat will change soon, because again, what Charlie mentioned before about sort of it's more concerning if we're not creating chances, but we are at least creating chances instead of like not creating chances, because I'd rather have that than not at all. So yeah, just have to sort of see improvement. Tomorrow is a big game for us in terms of just what Pi said, put 3 or 4 past them and just build some confidence up in the team. And yeah.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. All right, let's get into the team that we would like to see play tomorrow. Again, Mendy, God knows where he got lost at. Maybe someone chopped his finger off, but not available, so Kepa in goal. I think that's pretty straightforward. What do we do about centre-back? Because obviously it's been quite a tight turnaround since Dortmund. And Damesh, I'll go with you. Would you give Thiago Silva a rest for this one? I know obviously the next game is a week away, so I guess for the next game it's not a problem. But, Koulibaly did well in midweek, and Badiashile obviously deserves to play anyway. So I guess you could just play Badiashile and Koulibaly together,
Yeah, it's a tough one, because I really want Thiago Silva fully fit and ready for Dortmund, because that's, in my opinion, that's our biggest game that we've got sort of coming up. I can't remember who we played just before that. I believe, it's not Leicester, is it? No, I can't remember who we played just before Dortmund. But in that sort of game or tomorrow's game, I'd want him. Sorry, what was that?
West Ham we played before Dortmund.
Oh no, sorry, as in for the next leg I meant. Sorry.
I don't know.
We got. Yeah, I've forgotten who we've got after, but yeah, I did want Thiago Silva rested for tomorrow or potentially the game before we play Dortmund next week. So I think with tomorrow being a must-win game, I'd say probably start him for this game. But I can also see maybe Wesley Fofana getting a start potentially. He's been on the bench a couple of games now, I think. And I think it'll be good to see him get some minutes, to be honest, as well. Especially, say, worst case scenario, if he does have to come in against Dortmund for whatever reason, then yeah, it'd be good to sort of see him play again. But yeah,
I think we actually only play Dortmund in 2 weeks. So like we've got no midweek game next week, then we play Spurs, and then we have another midweek without a game, and then only we play Dortmund. So we have quite a while to go.
Yeah, we play Leeds. It's Leeds at home the weekend before Dortmund.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, then I'll probably start Thiago Silva then. But at the same time, we don't want to keep sort of overplaying him at the same time. But then again, we only have one fixture a week, so it's for now, so it's calm, I think. So yeah, I'll probably go Badiashile and Thiago Silva as the two.
Fair dues. I mean, obviously, Wesley Fofana is an interesting shout. I personally don't think he should be thrown in to start. I think, I guess, if we start Thiago Silva, take him off after an hour and bring Wesley Fofana on, because Wesley Fofana has been out for a very long time. I don't think he should start with the start. I think he should come back with a sub appearance rather than playing a 90 or a 60 first. So, Pice, would you go Badiashile and Thiago Silva? Would you go Badiashile and Koulibaly? Or what would you do? And would you bring Fofana on in the game? Pice, you here? Nope. All right. I'll go with you then first, Charlie.
Mate, no brainer for me. Silva and Badiashile all day. I know Koulibaly played well, but Badiashile's done nothing to warrant losing his place. So, yeah, simple as that for me. Badiashile. And obviously Silva.
You don't need to rest Thiago because
no. We say this all the time. Like, I wonder if he's going to be any good. Like next season when he's when he's going to be another year older, and he keeps being amazing pretty much every week. So I don't see any need to rest him. Again, there's a whole week after tomorrow until our next game, and then there's a further whole week after that game as well. So I don't. If we were playing midweeks, it's a bit different. But yeah, Silva for me with Badiashile, no brainer. Fofana's an interesting one though. I think if we're in a comfortable position, which I hope we are, then I think it definitely makes sense to bring it on and get him some minutes, because it's really tough to break up this partnership at the moment in the league. And with us having no cup games, I know the cup wouldn't be at the moment anyway, but with us having no cup games, there's not much chance to rotate the back. And generally speaking, you don't tend to rotate your centre-backs very much anyway. So it's going to be, he will get back into the team at some point, but I don't know when that's going to be. I think it's going to have to be with substitute minutes to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I do agree. And yeah, the donation by the Matt's Debater. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's good. Got you there, mate. Yeah, you got that, mate.
I got it off the Matt, all right?
mate, he had you there.
Hey, it was worth the $2, I reckon.
Yeah, that's fair, yeah.
Is Wesley Fofana still a professional footballer? Yeah, I mean, we kind of just touched on it anyways. But what I do feel bad about Alhambra, I did promise you I would talk about as we talk about XG, and I forgot to talk about it. But he says, as important as XG is, I assume OBV, you just mean obviously. I'm not sure why you put in all caps, but regardless. Which values player impact on teams' likelihood of scoring? Havertz,
OBV.
So OBV is not obvious. All right. Is minus 0.13, lowest at Chelsea, solution needed. Well, it would help if I knew what OBV stands for. Does anyone know?
I don't know.
I don't know.
OBV,
what is that?
On ball value.
On ball value. Yeah, but what is that? What's
I can read out the definition of it. Wait.
Let's hear it.
Let us introduce you to on ball value. Statsbomb, blah 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 blah. Where is it? There's an important question to answer in today's piece. What is OBV? Can you not do you not have a quick summary here? Which can objectively and quantitatively measure the value of events on the pitch.
Sounds like one of my university lectures, man. Hearing that.
Yeah, it genuinely does. Like,
genuinely.
As important. Okay. So basically saying XG is an important stat, and there's also OBV, which is an important stat, which values player impact on teams' likelihood of scoring. Is it just scoring or just performance? How about OBV is minus 0.13? But to really make more of that, I would need to compare it to others. If I'm honest, Alhambra, I appreciate the donation. I appreciate bringing it up. Maybe that's something to look into and to discuss in future streams. But we kind of need comparison stats to other people, you know, like other players in our team. What's their numbers on this? But if he's the lowest, that certainly doesn't help, considering he's the guy playing up front. You know, I think we can all agree on that. But yeah, Pice, are you back? He said 5 minutes ago he'll be back in 2 minutes, 7 minutes ago. So I'm not sure if he's back. But on that note, we'll just have to, ask Pice later what he thinks about the centre backs. Because I'd probably go Badiashile and Thiago Silva. I wouldn't mind Koulibaly.
I'm back. Sorry.
Oh, you are back. Fantastic. Who would you pick?
I just had a call to let me know that I had Dortmund tickets at home, so I'm gassed now.
Come on.
Oh, sick guy.
Love that. All right. Centre back, mate. Are you playing Badiashile and Thiago Silva? Would you rest Thiago Silva maybe? And would you bring Wesley Fofana on at least?
Well, I like what you guys have put on here so far. I think I'd go Badiashile and Silva. I think we've actually got a week break, haven't we, after this? So I think there's no need to rest Silva. I'd put those two in.
Okay, fair dues. But would you bring Wesley Fofana on maybe for Silva to not play him too much after the Dortmund game is only a couple of days ago?
Yeah, I would. I definitely would do that. I'd like to see him get a cameo. And by the way, what can anyone tell me why Graham Potter said? And this was the only thing I was annoyed about, really, on the Dortmund game. He said in the press conference before that Kovacic and Zakaria were going to be built up, and he didn't bring either on. So I was confused.
It's a bit because
I don't reckon they can't have been like that. They can't have been fit to play then.
Well, he said they were fit to come on and build. He said we've now got to build them up.
They were warming up for half of the second half on the side.
He probably just meant the warm up or something. I don't know.
Why take them? Like, what's the point of that?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not really sure because it would be strange if they were ready to play. Why neither of them would have come on? But there must have been a reason for it. I don't know.
I mean, it's I guess the way the game was, it's maybe not because it was so on the edge. The whole second half, before or after we conceded.
It's probably easier to introduce someone at home to Southampton back to action rather than away at Dortmund. It's
not the ideal game to throw someone not fully fit in, but then again, Chile started and was brilliant. So,
but he has had minutes before that, not loads, but yeah.
Very true. Let's talk about right back then, because I personally, like Pice hinted at earlier, I would rest James. He's played. He started every game since coming back from injury. Played 60 the first one and played 90 ever since, every time. The last thing I want is another situation where we overplay Reece James and therefore he gets injured again. So I would rest Reece James. What I'm not sure about is who I would play instead of him. I don't really like Aspi at right back these days, so I would throw forward Chalobah. And last time Chalobah played right back, played pretty well and we won the game, I'm pretty sure. Wasn't that against... Maybe we didn't win the game.
Well, the last time we won was Palace. So
that's true. The last time we won is Palace. Was that? Did he play right back in that game?
Yeah, I
think it might have been because wasn't Liverpool the game before Palace, and Liverpool and Palace is when Chalobah played right back.
No, Liverpool was after Palace. I think.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can check that in a second. I mean, Charlie, you didn't seem so happy when I said
not because you suggested it, because I get where you're coming from, but I just look at us right now. Mate, we aren't in 2 wins in 14. We aren't in a position to be resting our best players. We need to win. So I'd rather start him and then get ourselves into a position where we can take him off with half an hour to go and do it that way. I just don't think we're in a position to be not starting our best team when we're desperate for a win. And then you run the risk the opposite way of chucking your players on in a desperate attempt to try and scramble a result. So for me personally, I'd keep him in and then I'd take him off after 60 or 70 minutes if the result allows us to. But I get the thought process behind it. I just personally wouldn't do it given the situation.
If he gets injured tomorrow, Charlie, I will send you the invoice.
Mate,
for my therapist for being depressed again.
Mate, I won't receive it at the bridge because there's no fucking signal.
Mate, I send it in the mail. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, fair enough. To be honest, can't argue it too much, I suppose. Damesh, similar thoughts to Charlie?
Yeah. I see what you're saying, Laurenz and Pice, about sort of.
By the way, I checked. It was Chalobah at right back against Palace. That was.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We won a game with him at right back.
Yeah, we did. But
last time we won, maybe that's what we were missing. Chalobah at right back.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But I kind of see both your points about resting Reece, but as Charlie said, I don't think we're in a position to rest like our best players right now, man. And we have to. This is a perfect opportunity to just absolutely dominate and thrash a team who are bottom of the league, they're the lowest of the low right now.
Too much, mate.
Quite literally, but if we're in a good enough position, say we're 2-3 up in by say 50, 60 minutes. It'd be good. It'd be perfect to take him off and get Chalobah on at a time. But I think you just have to win the game as quick as possible, to be honest. And yeah, so just look at Southampton's team for last week, man. They're poor, really poor team. Apart from obviously maybe Lavia and Ward-Prowse, like their team in general is just not good at all.
I'll tell you what, one player, I know they lost last week, but they signed, I think his name's Suleimana. He's a left winger from the Ligue 1. I think he completed 6 or 7 dribbles I saw last week, and I watched the clips. Bloody hell, he's quick. So, yeah, I'd like to have James if we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that your shout as well then, Pies? Stick with Reece James, maybe take him off after an hour if possible?
Yeah, I think so. Knowing what I saw from that young lad last week, my God, he did look good.
These League One players, man, honestly. People call League One the Farmers League, man. I think
It's a hotbed for talent, Liga. It's fucking good for signing players, and the success rate from League One to Premier League is much better than any other leagues.
Except Arsenal, obviously, because Lacazette and Pepe were a bit shit, but you know. But
That's
you know, it's an Arsenal
good
issue.
later,
Them lot
mate.
crying over, we played on Wednesday, now we have to play Saturday. How awful that they have been in Champions League for so long. They don't even understand the rules anymore, these absolute clowns. But yeah, okay, you know, I might have gone Chalobah, but being outvoted, I don't mind so much. Left back then. I mean, Pies, just to confirm it from the press conference, Ben Chilwell obviously picked up a knock, which is partly why he was subbed off. We hadn't had training yet when the press conference took place today, so they were like, okay, let's see how training goes, and then we'll see after that whether Chile is involved tomorrow or not. But on that note, surely, even if he makes it fit, surely it isn't the best idea to start him. I know he's good, and I know he was so much better than Cucurella, but again, do you want to risk Chile being injured again and then having to see Cucurella for the whole rest of the season? I'd rather not risk that. I mean, I would throw Lewis Hall back in the shout, but it seems like Potter ain't going to do that. So, what do you reckon, Pies? Would you go with Chile regardless if he's fit, or would you go with Cucurella? I guess if you want to pick Lewis Hall, pick Lewis Hall.
If it was my personal lineup, I'd go with Lewis Hall, but I don't know where he is at the moment. I think
he was in the squad Wednesday at least.
Was he? I didn't even realize
he was.
that.
I was warming up.
Yeah, reluctantly, I'd probably go with Cucurella just because I think Chilwell does need, a rest. I think Potter's press comments, he sort of dabbled back and forth with like his answer over Chilwell. He said with trying to build him up, they're trying to assess his minutes, but in terms of like the knock he had, he said it would be like a very late call between late tonight or tomorrow. So for me, when you make that sort of late call, I read it as, a late call whether he was going to be starting or not. But I think personally it will be Cucurella with Chilwell coming off the bench, personally, I think.
And would you do that too, or is that just what you think?
No, I'd have Lewis Hall.
Okay, so do you want me to put Lewis Hall on screen for you or Cucurella?
You can put Lewis Hall if you want. I want to see him play again, man. I think he's good on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
He was so good going forward as well. And I think, by the way, I was going to say, I don't know, because, Hall and Mudryk, that looks like a disaster. But then again,
I think them two could link up brilliantly.
Yeah, I was going to say, but then again, how funny would it be if Chilwell and Cucurella, out of them three, and Hall is the one that links up the best with Mudryk.
Chile was okay with Mudryk. There was a few through balls and stuff.
But, but it wasn't, great. Still,
no,
but
it was amazing. Okay, fair. Lewis Hall. Darmish, who would you pick? Lewis Hall, Cucurella, a potentially injured Chilwell?
Yeah, it's a tough one because judging from what sort of Graham Potter said in his conference earlier, don't think Chilwell will probably be fit enough to start. If he is fit, obviously I play him. I play Chilwell any day, but I think judging on right now, I'll probably have to agree with Pies and maybe go Lewis Hall, just because I want to, personally, I'd keep Cucurella out of the spotlight for now, given what's happened to him off the pitch as well as on the pitch and stuff. And I think that's probably the best solution for him right now, which is maybe not being in the spotlight at the moment, because if he does make a mistake, then more fans will be onto him and stuff. But I'd probably say Lewis Hall for tomorrow, if obviously Chilwell's not fit to start. Or I'll probably go Lewis Hall.
Fair dues. Obviously, we didn't touch on it, but it was reported by the Telegraph that Cucurella's house was robbed shortly after moving to Chelsea. I mean, I said my opinion in our group chat where I'm like, if this affects you, fair enough, but it's not it can't just affect you after 7 months, but in the first month, it's fine. Like that's weird. So like, if it affects him, I feel bad for him, obviously, and no one wants their house to be broken into and robbed, especially having family there. And as a footballer, obviously, the whole world always knows when you're not home and stuff. But, there's two options. If it affects him, don't play him. And if it doesn't affect him, it's not an excuse, right? So, like, and if it does affect him and he's played anyway, then that's bad on Potter, especially when he's meant to be such a good manager and everything. So, yeah, it's as simple as that. This is bad for him, but I'm not going to use it as an excuse for things that happen on the pitch, because if it's affecting you too much, then don't play. Simple as that. So maybe I'm a bit too harsh on that, but like I said, this happened 7 months ago. Like, come on now. Charlie, would you pick Lewis Hall? Would you pick Cucurella? What would you do with Chilwell?
No, Chilwell's not going to start for me. 70 minutes midweek. Yeah, we're still
on top of that.
We are still building him up. So it makes no sense to start him in this game. I don't think we don't desperately need him. Yeah. In my opinion. So whilst I'd love to see Lewis Hall back, he doesn't really seem to be in favour at the moment. And I think for me, Cucurella will probably play, and it just urge people to kind of just get behind him. If you don't think he's playing well, that's fine, no problem. Don't boo players, because it doesn't help anyone. It's in everyone's best interests for Cucurella to play well, because if he plays well,
I nearly got in a fight in the Dortmund away.
Yeah.
I told people to shut the fuck up.
Mate, but it's so hypocritical as well, because those same people that boo Cucurella will cheer Havertz and Mount every week for dropping disaster classes, yet they'll boo Cucurella because he's not been good for a few weeks.
To be fair, I heard a couple of people boo Havertz, boo Ruben, boo Cucurella.
Mate, this whole booing
boo
thing
Ruben? What, against Dortmund?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, less booing.
Right,
more like,
mate,
get him the fuck off his shit, that kind of
mate,
thing.
this
Bro,
booing.
they didn't watch the game.
Mate, this booing
it's in a way there in Europe, so they're probably battered, but...
Yeah, of course. Mate, the booing stuff is just a nonsense to me. Like, I don't get for me personally, I'll never boo a player. Yes, I'll obviously criticize players and perhaps give up on them in terms of I don't believe they can turn it around and make a success of themselves at the club. But I'll never boo them, because it's not helpful for anyone. Imagine
what support means.
Mate, bro, imagine if you were struggling at work, or you did a few things wrong at work and then your colleagues and shit were booing you. It's the same thing. It's just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. Imagine if he scores as well. Say for whatever reason he starts,
and then he scores.
Those same people that booed him, I reckon we just celebrate
Cucurella up top just to piss people off. You know what I mean?
Mate, it's just bollocks, really. The whole thing. I'd play Cucurella, but I've got nothing against Lewis Hall starting.
Yeah. I would actually pick Cucurella as well. On the one hand, to give him some confidence back, as long as the whole robbery thing isn't affecting him. But also because we all criticized it heavily, how much he passed back and how much he did nothing against West Ham. Justifiably so, because he did nothing. But against Dortmund, he did more. So he clearly, whether it's the fan criticism that he took on, or whether it's just Potter telling him, or the teammates, clearly did something. Now, the guy still can't cross to save his life. He had quite late on in the game. He had 2 crosses after each other, and they were both fucking awful. So, crossing not his thing. But as long as he passes forward and tries a through ball or two to Mudryk, I'm already okay with that. I mean, people know I like Hall. I've picked Lewis Hall many a times here. But, I mean, if he's not really in consideration at the moment, then what can I do? But hey, here we are. I'm going to keep this one quick, and I'm sure will and should start again. The question is, who starts next to him? Charlie, I'll go with you. Would you start someone like a Zakaria or a Kovacic? I mean, Ruben, when he came back in, he started straight away.
But I mean, Ruben played.
But then again, Ruben was he bad enough to not play him again?
No, I don't think so. What I'm saying is though, Ruben, obviously, first start since before the World Cup against West Ham. I think he played 70, 80 minutes at West Ham. I can't remember now. He played
He played a full 90. Was he subbed off?
No, he got subbed off. Gallagher replaced him. I think he was maybe.
True.
And then he played 90 in midweek. I don't know where he's at fitness-wise in terms of how the club are managing his minutes and whatnot. I would personally start him just based on the fact that Kovacic, we don't know he was supposedly only meant to have like a slight strain on his calf. Was only meant to miss one game.
And we've not seen him in a month. So.
Yeah, we've not. Yeah, exactly. He's missed the last 3 or 4 games or whatever it is.
It's just these players whose name starts with a K, man. It's just so wrong with them.
And then obviously Zakaria, we haven't seen him since Fulham away. Don't know how bad the injury was. Really, don't really know where he's at. So for me, I probably would stick with Ruben. But if it's not gonna be Ruben, I'd rather chuck Dennis in because I think he's a bit more durable than Kovacic might be.
Yeah, I agree with every word you just said. Basically, I would agree on the same thing. Price, what would you reckon? Ruben again? Would you throw Kobo or Zakaria into start, or rather start Ruben and then bring either of the other two on for Ruben after like an hour?
Ruben's done nothing wrong, but I'd actually start Zakaria and then bring Kovacic on. Yeah. I'd probably do that. I want Zakaria playing more deeper though, so kind of where Enzo is right now, and Enzo more forward.
Yeah, I mean, I guess whenever we do see them play together, finally, we'll see whether that happens that way or not. Okay, but fair enough. 2 votes for Ruben so far. Damesh, are you going to pick Zakaria as well? Or are you going to pick Ruben? What would you do?
Personally, for me, like Pi said, I'd want Zakaria to start. That's my sort of personal preference for tomorrow. Just try and sort of build up his minutes again and try and combat Southampton's midfield. Obviously, they got Lavia in midfield. They got Ward-Prowse in midfield as well. And I think a guy called Alcaraz as well, Argentinian international, who plays in midfield as well. So I think definitely Zakaria is the perfect sort of fit for this game. No like sort of hate towards Ruben at all, because I thought he did all right, to be fair. But I think given the amount he sort of played and the injury that he had, sort of playing those amount of minutes, I probably would give him a rest this one maybe and give Zakaria a go. And yeah, I definitely want to see Zakaria as the more deeper player and see what Enzo can do as more of the progressive player.
Tomorrow's surely got to be the time where we see Zakaria and Kovacic, because like they've been training for like nearly like a week and a half now. Like surely
2
they
weeks,
get minutes tomorrow.
Ruben's just better than both, mate.
He's played well, to be fair.
We do have to give them minutes, because then the next game's another week, and then it's Spurs away, and you start going, when are they going to get minutes, and the games just go by and by. So you've got to use them.
But you've also if you're going to play Zakaria more defensively, which I think he might try, then tomorrow's a good opportunity to do that against Southampton. Prepare for next week already, because otherwise you don't going into that Spurs game. If you just have Ruben and Enzo again, you can prepare for whatever in training, but I doubt it's going to be Ruben and Enzo against Spurs. So I'd expect him to at least start one of the guys and then maybe bring one of them off. Because if they can't do 60 minutes, then that's an issue, considering they've been training a week and a half.
Absolutely. Now, because we've had 2 votes for Ruben and 2 votes for Zakaria, ladies and gentlemen, in the chat, I've given you the option. Make your choice between Ruben and Zakaria. We'll get back to it in a little bit and see what the chat has picked. And that's what we're going to put on screen. The poll is at the very top of the chat. Place your votes. And again, if you haven't already, please do subscribe and hit that like button. That'd be massively appreciated. Let's get to 150 likes. Everyone that hasn't hit like yet, doesn't cost you any money, doesn't cost you any time. Just hit that button. And we move on from there. Higher up the pitch. And I'm not going to read it out, but I kind of agree with what Wing said here, unfortunately. But all right, what are we going to do higher up the pitch? I think 2 of these positions we don't even need to discuss much. Right.
I was going to say 3 don't need to be discussed. I think it picks itself, that front, that 3 behind the centre forward.
That's true actually.
Does it? I'm sure there will be some people, especially in the chat, that will pick Ziyech over Mudryk.
Oh, absolutely not. Those I would
in the chat there will be
using Graham Potter's word. I would suggest that those people don't know anything about anything. If they think that Ziyech, should start, if they think that Ziyech should be starting over Madueke, come on.
And considering Madueke didn't even play the Champions League as well.
And exactly, didn't even play. Yeah. So for me, it's a no-brainer. But obviously,
I think Mount might know.
Oh,
maybe Mount on the right?
No. We can't be doing things like that. We need to win these games.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying.
Give Mount a new contract. Pice is like, no, immediately. Now Pice is like, stop Mount.
Bro, no, I don't want to start him. I'm just saying.
I'm saying, look, don't get me wrong. It could be a possibility, but for me, it's a no-brainer in Madueke.
Do you know what, boys? I think the debate might actually be on the left, because you never know with Sterling. Maybe might get a start over Mudryk. We don't know.
I don't think he's fit to start. I think he might only come off the bench.
Yeah, I think.
But I'd
Mudryk was arguably wasn't very good. So would you? Mount has played more on the left when coming on than on the right. So does maybe Mount start instead of Mudryk?
Nah,
I
think
wouldn't
that-
pick it, but you know.
I can't see that happening. I can't see Sterling starting either. He's played no minutes since he's played those few minutes against Fulham at home, and then he disappeared for the last 2 games.
He's got to keep playing Mudryk because otherwise,
Yeah.
the only
Agreed.
thing that actually no, I was going to say a 4-3-3 if you fit Mountain, but I think you've got to I mean maybe if you play Felix up top, but I don't think he's going to do that.
Well, you could have Felix up top with Mount in the 10 maybe as an alternative option, but I personally wouldn't want to see that.
Same.
I'd rather stick to this.
So stick to
The more
all these
consistency
three.
you
Are we
get.
all in agreement?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think
what was
so.
that, bro?
These three behind the striker. Would you agree,
Yeah.
Thomas?
Yeah.
Fair
I'm in
dues.
agreement with that. I think the
All
more
right, but
consistency
on
we
the
get,
striker, we
I think
might
it's
have
better.
different options. You were going to say something, Gon?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the more consistency we get with sort of these forward players, the better for the gel of the team as well. So as much as we can play these guys, obviously we don't want to burn them to the ground, but if we find some sort of form and consistency, that's what we've been crying out for. So yeah.
There you go. You know what, Damesh? I'll stick with you. Who would you start up front?
Oh, this is hard because
It is hard.
I definitely wouldn't start Havertz for sure. Definitely not. He can hold bench for this game, but I'm kind of in two minds between Aubameyang and Fofana. Oh God, this is hard. I think given the amount of chances we actually create, maybe Aubameyang could be sort of perfect in a way.
If Aubameyang starts, watch the XG tomorrow be 0.4.
That's true as well. Do you know what? I'll give Fofana a go. Why not? We haven't seen Fofana sort of start, and I just want to see what he's made of. And it's had a good cameo against Fulham as well. Obviously, unlucky to not score that goal. Should have done better. Should I say not really unlucky, but should have done better.
A bit of both.
But there's so much potential for him. But I just want to see what he can do because I honestly can't remember any sort of performances that he's put for us, to be honest. So maybe he's coming on against City and obviously the one against Fulham. But yeah, I really want to see what Fofana would be like with Mudryk, Felix, and Mudryk in the team.
Okay, fair. Pice, who would you start from?
Oh, this is difficult. Not for Havertz. He can bye for this game. But it's difficult because I agree. I want to see what Fofana can do, but we need to win and experience up top. In Aubameyang. I'm going to go with Aubameyang and actually bring Fofana on. I don't know if Fofana's quite ready to start yet. I'm going to go with Aubameyang.
Okay, Charlie, who would you pick?
I'd go with Fofana. Sick of watching Havertz, to be honest. And in terms of Fofana or Aubameyang, not all his fault, but he's done fuck all since October. He's not in favour. And if he's not,
it is his fault. If he trained properly and he made, and I'm not saying he doesn't try, but if he looked good in training, he didn't even go to the World Cup. If he used to actually get a benefit out of that and win the manager over, he wouldn't have been scrapped from the squad. He wouldn't have been taken out of sit on the stands at every match day. He would actually be used. People think this happened to Aubameyang just because Potter is mean or stupid. No. Aubameyang didn't go to the World Cup, had the whole time off, and after that, Potter decided to not use him. And what does that tell you? He used him before. Do you not he used him before the World Cup? So you really think?
Yeah, he started a fair few games. For me, Aubameyang, I get why people might want him to start because he is a good finisher, and if we create those chances, you'd probably say he's the best finisher at the club, probably in terms of I don't think that's an outrageous thing to say, but. Everything else that goes with it is all round play is shit right now. That's just where he's at in his career. He's not like he used to be, which is fine. It happens to everyone, but he's not part of the plans going forward either. And I don't look at him as a player that's that good and that influential that he needs to be in the team. So for me, I'd rather go with someone a bit younger, a bit more raw, hungry, point to prove. I'd rather go with Fofana.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I don't really care. Start either Fofana, start Aubameyang. After that, people will be like, oh, okay, they're no good either. So then we can just start Havertz in peace again the game after. Without everyone losing their minds again. So, yeah, I don't really care. It won't make a difference. Neither of them will be great. Because Fofana isn't really ready. He's also too young. He's also too inexperienced. And Aubameyang, Also, he hasn't played in way too long, but hey, I don't really care. Play either of them. Neither will be very good, and then we'll just go from there. But because I've had enough of Havertz is shit. They're all three of them are bad. One is too young, one is too old, and one is we don't do we want to sell him in the summer? I don't really know. It doesn't really matter who you play up front, really. It's just I just can't understand why how we signed so many players and Broja got injured, and the only striker we signed is a striker that's 20 from Molde. It's just strange. It's just really, really strange.
I don't know about you guys, but I just got a feeling Mason Mount will start tomorrow. I don't know why. I just don't see Potter benching him for 3 games. Obviously, none of us want to see him play, but realistically, I just got a feeling he'll start.
To be honest, with what Havertz is doing right now, and me not thinking that Felix or Aubameyang are any good, maybe we should be doing this, but I don't know how well Felix will work up front either. And maybe because Felix has looked, as much as he's missed the big chances against Dortmund, he's looked superb pretty much every time he's played. So why take him out of the position he's looked superb in? But, maybe this is what we should be doing. Thoughts?
I personally don't want to see that.
Just because none of us seem convinced by any of the striking options.
Well, that's the alternative option, basically. But yeah. I don't want to see that. So,
same, yeah.
But that's the other option.
Taking Felix out of those pockets of space where he's been so good in, I just don't think it's a good idea.
No, I agree. I agree. When people are seeing this happening with the striking options, that what else are you going to do?
I'd play for Fana, but I'm fully aware that Havertz will start tomorrow. So I'm not even going to get annoyed about it because I know it's happening.
Yeah, Havertz.
It's our team anyway, boys. It's fine. It's the team that we've come up with. So.
You think Havertz?
Do you actually think he will not start Havertz, guys?
No, I think Havertz will be rested tomorrow. I think he's played too much.
No doubt in my mind Havertz starts. If Thiago Silva does get rested, fucking Havertz doesn't.
No, I don't.
Has Havertz even ever been injured since playing for Chelsea?
I just think in terms of workload, I think he's, Graham Potter always goes on about workload. I don't think he'll start, personally.
He's played 90 minutes, hasn't he? Pretty much almost every game, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah, he's played so many games in a row.
I find it weird though that you rest Havertz, but not James. Oh, to be fair, you said maybe he should, but you picked him in the end anyway. But hey, we'll see. We'll see. I'm willing to put money on it that Havertz starts, but we'll see. We'll see. So the last thing, we've gone very long here today because we had to discuss the Dortmund game as well. Last thing before we round this one out, again, ladies and gentlemen, subscribe if you haven't already. What did the poll? Who won between Ruben and Zakaria? Let me check. Zakaria wins by 56%, although not so many of you have actually voted, guys. So please go to the poll at the top of the chat and pick your choice between Ruben of the Chick and Zakaria in midfield. Maybe people haven't voted because they want neither of those two and want Kovacic or whatever. But just place your vote, please. But yeah, score predictions, boys. I'll start with you, Dalmish. What do you reckon?
Ooh, score prediction for tomorrow. Don't ask why, but I'm going to go 3-0 Chelsea. I just sense a massive goal fest for us. At some point, I just know we're going to thrash a team at some point. It's going to happen, and I believe it's tomorrow. So, yeah.
Fair news. 3-0. Hey, I'd be a fan. Charlie, what do you reckon?
Man, I don't care as long as we win. I don't care if it's the shittest game ever and it's a 1-0 own goal, whatever it is. But same. I do think we're going to win. I feel less confident about this game than I did about the Dortmund game, but I still think, I'm going to go for a 2-1 Chelsea win. I think we'll just get through.
Okay. Pice, what do you reckon?
4-0 Chelsea. This is the game. This is the game where we go crazy, I hope.
Shall I say 6-0 now?
Beat them 6-0 last year, didn't we? So
beat them 6-0, yeah.
Mate, if we can't score goals against bottom of the table, we have no hope for the rest of the season.
They might have them. That Mason Mount should start in, by the way, because all the haters always say that's the only team he does something against. So
maybe they might have the no manager bounce. Who knows?
True, exactly, which is why we should start Mount, because he only does something against teams in the bottom three.
Havertz as well. Havertz scores against Southampton, doesn't he?
True. Well, unfortunately, we can't bring on Timo Werner, but he loved the goal against Southampton.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He did love a goal against Southampton. But hey, I'll say 2-0. I'd love for Pice or Charlie to be right, though. But yeah, I'll go with the 2-0. Let's see if we've got a few more votes. We do, but it's only meant that Zakaria wins by a slightly more significant margin. Fair dues. I'd be happy. People know I love Ruben, but I'd also be very excited to see how Zakaria and Endo work together. So I'd actually be quite down with that as well. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round this one out. Please do subscribe to Charlie's channel. His link is down in the description, the Blues Brothers. Just scroll down the description. You see the tag, the Blues Brothers. Hit the tag. Takes you to his channel. Subscribe to him. Have you? Are we nearing the 3K, mate?
Yeah, it's slowly ticking along, and I might also shamelessly plug my Twitter because I'm only about 30 odd followers from a K, which is not really much, but
don't put yourself down.
We need to get there.
Start somewhere. No, exactly.
We need to get there as well. So that one as well.
You can see it on screen. Charlie Patrick 0. Follow him on Twitter. You can also follow me on Twitter because I'm like 160 odd away from 10K. So. Yeah. Go do that as well. That'd be good. Follow Dharmesh. His Twitter, you can see it on screen as well. And of course, as always, shout out to Pice. Check out his website, chelseafc365.com, for all your latest written Chelsea news. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards. Let's hope we can get a flipping win tomorrow. And we'll see you next time.